Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Automata podcast. It is episode Dos Dos. Sorry, my braces. He's laughing at me because I'm slurring my words already. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Twitch, TikTok. Did I miss anything, Josh?
Instagram, YouTube, Twitch.
Ah, yes, of course. See, that's where we have each other. This week, a little brief, quick synopsis here. We're going to talk about the Xbox Direct, more Last of Us, because everybody's talking about Last of Us. So why shouldn't we? And then, what was that third one, Josh?
It's The Last of Us. We're talking about story changes, and obviously we're talking about the potential new era of video game adaptations being in shows and movies.
Which is definitely driven by our Last of Us discussions. So, with that said, let's do our normal weekly routines here. First and foremost, how are you doing, sir?
Doing well. This is the first week in 2 weeks that we are just having a one-on-one. We've had so many awesome guests on recently.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you've been working your ass off, booking. So kudos to you. And I'm sure you have some more lined up in the future. No spoilers, right?
Yeah. Well, not now. No spoilers now. But
No
yeah,
spoilers now. But
it's just awesome talking to more creators like us that are just passionate about gaming, and hopefully you guys are enjoying it too.
absolutely. So on that note, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good too. For whatever stupid reason, I've been feeling more tired lately, and it just kind of blows my mind.
Is it
I
the
just
cold?
can't. Who knows? Maybe, possibly. I can't rule that one out, but yeah, last few days I just been really tired. Like I actually did feel for a couple moments that maybe I was coming down with something, and I kind of had like that sluggish, little fatigue feeling. But it's kind of since gone away.
So do you
But yeah,
feel that the whole
hard.
day, or is it just the beginning of the day? Because I know I have that too. Because it's been cold, raining, snowing, and all that stuff, and the mixture has been making my allergies making me feel sluggish. But after like the first like 3 hours of being awake, then I get back to normal.
I feel like okay, so like daily rituals, right? Going to work. Like I feel like the actual um when I'm up component, shower, get ready for work, drive, all that. I'm pretty alert for the most part. Like I'm obviously still waking up, but I feel pretty good. And then start off my day. Some days there may be a period where I kind of feel a little also fatigued too. But I would say more times than not, it's surprisingly when I get home. Uh, Even yesterday, and this is extremely rare for me. Who knows if I don't even can't even tell you last time I was having, but I actually started my stream yesterday,
Mm.
and I only streamed for a half hour. I was just like I just felt tired. I just felt and I know I looked it too. Like I kind of like saw. It's like no, I my eyes are like it's like no, I can't do this. I still played. Like I turned off the stream and I continued playing, but I was like dozing off in between queues and stuff like that. So like I just knew it wasn't like I couldn't stream that day. I just was way too
Didn't have
tired.
the
But I still
energy to talk.
yeah, and yeah, so like it was just really weird. But that's really been other than that, it's kind of been status quo for me during the week. As far as game playing again, well, we all know it's all World of Warcraft, but I also rekindled some play with Octopath again. There's
Octopath, the
on,
mobile
on the
game.
on the phone, yes,
Okay.
great question. Yes, back on the phone. Champions of the Continent.
They added something
There's
new, right? An ultimate thing, like an ultimate technique you could get.
yeah, I still even need to learn about it. They did quite a lot of push outs or rollouts because I did like fell off, right? So there's a lot of like storyline stuff I could catch up with, which is fine because the way they rolled it out, like I mean, you could really flip it in a matter of like probably like hour, maybe even 90 minutes tops. So the fact that I kind of let it sit for a while, let it kind of pile up on me, which is kind of pretty cool. Um, but they also are celebrating their half-year anniversary, which I always think is odd. But so wait for Squeenix to probably milk some monies. But yeah, so I started playing that a little bit again, and also too, I'd be a little remiss not to mention this is the 1 year or almost the 1 year anniversary of Legends of Arceus, which kind of blew my mind. I was like, damn, that game feels older than one
Yeah,
year. Like, I was like, what? 1 year? I thought that game was out for like freaking 3 years. What the hell?
I think it feels
Um,
longer because Scarlet and Violet came out, making it feel like it's been that 2 year break.
Yeah, probably it does have an impact. I think the other part is like maybe because the game was released in January rather than like mid-year or before Christmas like Scarlet was and Violet. So I don't know. Because I remember I think we might have even talked to obviously this was pre-podcast, but about it not being able to make the rounds for rewards and stuff like that because of the time.
And well,
Um,
are you talking about Scarlet and Violet or Arceus? Because it actually did
Arceus.
make the round,
Oh,
and it
did it?
was on the Game Awards for an award. I
Did
don't know if it won.
this past one,
Yes,
but
the
not
one.
but not the one before. I guess is what I was getting
Oh
at.
yeah, because it came out in January, so the year was
Yeah,
already over.
because it like missed it out or something. Yeah.
Yeah, by a whole year.
Um, yeah, but yeah, and then as far as purchases, I actually made an impulse purchase. Drum roll, please, for the benefit of those at home that are listening audio and not visually. But I made this impulse purchase of
Mega Man
Mega Man
X.
X from 8-bit. And just to actually hold one of these cartridges again, I think is pretty freaking cool.
So the question
Um,
is that an actual playable cartridge or is it just a display
yes,
piece?
nope, it's actual playable cartridge for Super Nintendo.
So if you
Um,
pop the Super Nintendo in right now, it would work perfectly fine.
yes,
And is
yeah,
there any like upscaling? Like when I say upscaling, I'm
no,
talking about like like Final
no,
Director's Cut
I don't think so. I think it's just direct
base.
port. So this is gonna now like scream like gambling, but I forgot how many of these they produced. We'll go with 5,000. 1,000 of them were actually like special translucent blue cartridges.
Hmm.
So like those are worth more money. So I
Did
just
did
bought
you
it.
miss on the time frame, or did you not want to get that one?
No, they're still actually I think they're still available, to be honest. They didn't sell out. The one that did sell out was they did a re-release of Mega Man 2, I believe. And it was like a baby powder blue cartridge. I don't think I would have bought that if I would have known about it, but Mega Man X I actually really did enjoy.
Yeah, don't you also
Um,
have it on the like the PS4 and the Switch, like the I don't know, like the
I
export version?
I've gotten quite a few of their anniversary versions that usually were collections, right? So they probably did have this game on it. But I actually surprisingly have this on the PC as well on a CD-ROM. So so this one really was one of my favorites. And reason being too, another cool thing is like there's like a special way you could unlock Ryu's Hadouken for Mega Man, and I always thought that was fucking badass. So
That's pretty cool. So wait, who made that again?
8-bit,
Eight
I
bit.
think it was. Yeah, I am 8bit.com or something.
I'm about to look them up because I know recently, obviously it's been a thing for a while, like limited run play Asia and all that stuff. Making
Yeah,
like actual physical ports of digital games only and then bringing them out.
yeah.
Supposedly, a lot of them because they've grown in popularity. Some of them are
Hmm.
actually partnering with big stores. Like I know Limited Run is now partnering with Best Buy to actually bring their games instead of just being online to actual physical stores.
Wow. But are they still going to be with the mantra limited run, but still just have X amount of physical copies at stores?
I'm
Or is it
assuming
then no
so.
longer the limited run?
See, obviously I'm just assuming because I just
Okay.
seen it, but I'm assuming it's gonna be
Yeah.
like limited quantity for a certain time, like how like Mario 3D All Stars was supposed to be there for like 6 months and then they pull it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how they might
Uh,
do it,
interesting.
but I don't know.
Interesting.
Or they could be
Hmm.
another publisher, like GameStop. Sometimes they bring digital games and only sell it exclusively at their stores, but there's unlimited quantities. They just not develop, but produce it for them.
Yeah. Like I
Or
mean
publisher, that's what I mean.
I mean maybe you could correct me. But I felt like limited run and like a company like this, I thought they were more kind of created due to the indie scene, right? Because the indie scene didn't have that avenue to mass produce. So they mostly sold their games digitally, right? But then there becomes this cult following, and then these companies kind of came over like, hey, we'll print your copy, for whatever 5,000, 8,000, 10,000, and do those limited runs, which have now kind of gained popularity. Which I actually, and I'm sure you agree because we've talked about this before. Think it's really awesome because I think the physical aspect will never go away, but it's definitely diminished over the years.
Oh yeah,
So I think
significantly.
so. Yeah, so I think this kind of gives, dare I say, a little bit of a safe haven. Um, but yeah,
Well, one of the things that limited runs does to do a good job of preserving physical media is that they don't just make the game. They usually give you like a collector's set where like it's like a map, soundtrack, or some kind of like
yes,
other little gadget. So they
yes,
make it a little bit more worth your while with the price, and also sometimes the physical media might be cheaper than the digital media, which is weird.
yeah. That one is extremely bizarre. Can never put a finger on well how the hell that happens.
Yeah, like
Or I mean,
whatever.
even the fact that they're still the same price. I mean, that's another thing that really just doesn't make any sense. But
Yeah, like what was it? The Last of Us Part One. I was looking at it because obviously the show and stuff like that. But I was looking at, I'm like, oh, it's still $70 on PlayStation, and I looked at GameStop, and I'm like, oh, it's $30. I'm like, why not just get it physically?
that's just makes no damn sense.
Yeah, and especially since it's a first party thing. Like they have the right to cut whatever prices they want. They don't have to like pay the middleman. They are the middleman. But for
Hmm.
some reason, I guess premium price is all the way through, like Nintendo.
I mean, like we're the ones paying for it, so we got no one to blame but ourselves, right?
Yeah, but also like to the fact too is like it's not just like normal games too. Sometimes you get really lucky and look at clearance sections and you see like collector's editions that are like $300 for like $20. Like I think I
You,
bought a Resident Evil 6 thing recently at GameStop for $15, and it came with like the full statue and everything.
holy mother of God. I would have bought that with not and probably still not even play it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you've been to GameStop recently, but you know how they always like
Yeah,
the
on the
top
top.
shelf.
No, yeah,
Yeah,
like I was waiting, for you to finish your point because yeah, I've gone and I've seen, and it just kind of blows my mind. It's like, damn, like I'm sure at the time maybe people were struggling to get them, and now all of a sudden like they have an excessive inventory of them. Like what? Um, maybe I should start going just but now here comes impulse buying but just to maybe see if I score one or two like I know the ones I've seen like they're games that I definitely wouldn't play, and I'm not like fans of the franchise so to speak, so it's like I wouldn't never buy them anyway, but who knows, maybe there might be one that like catches my like, oh no, that's a good package for a good price.
yeah.
But
Like
yeah
right
I
now might be the good time too because obviously even though digital is being pushed hard, physical media is because of collecting, trading, and all that stuff. It's making a rise again. GameStop is even taking older games. Like I've actually seen an X64 cartridge there. I've seen PS2 games, PS3 games on the shelves. Obviously, it's a very limited selection every store, but
mm-hmm,
they're starting to have old games again. And I was very shocked about that. Like I just recently bought Ratchet and Clank 3 or the Ratchet and Clank collection for PS3 and
mm-hmm.
the Amazing Spider-Man Web of Shadow or yeah, Web of Shadows. $30 each. And obviously this is going to be the seller point. I bought them because they were cheap and I sold them for $70.
Okay,
So I
more
was like,
flipping,
the
yeah.
fact that I was able to go to GameStop, buy two rare old games, and actually flip them.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, back to like even when that generation of games was like like water in GameStops, like it was still even just cool looking to find that diamond in the rough when there was a bunch of them. Like I remember, I mean, hell, like with GameCube, right? If you found a Smash Melee game, you're like, holy crap! Or going back to PS2, you found that Marvel versus Capcom game, you're like, holy shit! And that even back in those days, it was like you found a game you would flip because they were just so hard. But that's interesting. I wonder how what they're paying for those turn-ins because like
They're probably
GameStop's
paying
always
like
been
minimal, super minimal.
yeah, right, because GameStop's always known to fuck over those that are trading in games. So like the only times, or dare I say only times, but that they were extremely I don't even want to use the word profitable, but um is when they had those deals like you trade three any games and we'll throw in an extra $50 or something like that.
Hmm.
Those were the rare times. It's like, oh, let's see, Madden 2010, 11, 12, bye bye. It's like I think that used to happen actually, and they started removing them from the list.
No, they well, there's certain games obviously they do because people would benefit from that, but they still have those
Mhm,
pro day like powerpoints, whatever you call it, where you turn games in, you get more points back. They still have
mhm.
that, and people. That's usually when I go look the most for games. Is that because they get a huge in stock of games? I'm just like looking through it and seeing what I can get.
And you've gone to like what is it called?
The
What's
retro
it
game
called?
store.
Huh?
Are you talking about the retro game store?
I've never been to that one, but I was gonna say, what is it called? Not
Back in the game.
no. What's the other one? There's another one that's semi-popular. Oh man, I'm drawing a blank.
Is it closed now? Because I've been to
I
like
don't think it's closed. I think there's actually one close up by me. Whatever. But there's one that has they mostly have like ton of old games. They also have like pops and shit like that too. I think
well,
there's one in
if you can tell me
Orland
what the
Park.
name is, because so far the only retro game store I've been to is Back in the Game, because
Uh-huh.
it's all on the line.
Uh-huh.
But I'd love to find more. Like, it's just nice to go see older games.
Oh no, yeah, no, this store you would probably have a field day in, and maybe even to the point of like you say about flipping games. Did you say disc replay?
No, no, no. Back
Okay,
in the
disc
Game.
replay.
This
Disc
replay.
replay. Yeah,
Okay.
check check that one out. There's one in I know there's one on Park. I don't know if there's one around me. I'll have to check. But yeah, you'll have a good field day there.
All right. Well, I'm definitely gonna put that on my list. I might even go this weekend. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. I
And
know. I
the
almost.
good thing about those, like, I'm not sure about disc replay, but like, I think another reason why I go to Back in the Games is because they also have like a membership like GameStop, so they do where if you buy two pre-owned games, you get a third one free, and that's usually where you make the bigger profits. It's like, oh,
Gotcha.
3 games, I'm like, that one's worth more, that one's worth more. I make my money back on this game, and you're good to
Hmm.
go.
Yeah, I mean they do have some knowledge, like you'll see old games that obviously are marked up because they know, but uh like I could easily tell that you have a more vast knowledge that I'm sure you'd find some stuff that like, yeah, they fucked up on this one. Yoink.
Oh,
So,
I know I say this, and obviously I play most of the games I flip, or if I buy like doubles so I can keep one sell one. But talking about like one of the big screw ups, and I wonder if they do it on purpose just to make it more enticing to buy, because I feel like since they're game traders, they know what they're doing. But I
hmm
bought NCAA 14 college football, which I think sells for like $130. I'm not sure if the price changed, but when I got it, it was selling for $130. They had it on their shelf for $20.
hmm
I was like, "That's mine,"
yeah,
and I was
yeah,
like,
that's
and
crazy.
I even asked him because obviously I try to build good relations with them because I think they're a great store. So I asked him like, "Do you know how much this goes for?" Like, yeah, I don't know why we put it there, but it's $20. Enjoy. I was like, "Okay, man, appreciate it."
In- Interesting. That is interesting and funny.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So, want to move on to topic one, or you got anything else?
No, I mean, the games I've been playing too is just World of
Oh yeah, that's right.
Warcraft. Really
Yep.
enjoying. Talking about the flip and talk. I've been making gold in that game, loving it.
Hmm.
It's actually brought my
Hmm.
joy back. And also played the last. Oh, well, not the Last of Us. Speaking of zombie games, The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Been playing that.
Now,
And,
I know you were working on where was it, like was it chapter 2 and you were going to work on 3, or was it 4 to 5? I can't remember now.
oh, I already finished the whole game.
Oh, but you finished it. Oh, okay, because I know you were
Yeah.
working towards it, and I was like, I was going to ask how many different installments there were.
Well, so
Oh,
in every season, it's usually about there's like 6 to 7 chapters in an episode, but there's usually like 5 episodes per season. Um,
okay,
So yeah, I worked through all 5 episodes
okay,
and got that done. There's DLC. I haven't done that yet, and I plan on doing it.
mm,
But usually it's 5 episodes per season, and there's 4 seasons.
gotcha, gotcha. Okay, and each episode, give or take, is about how long of a time run?
I mean, you could definitely probably speedrun it and do maybe like an hour and a half.
Mm,
I was doing more of the narrative-driven approach, where it took about 2.5 hours.
okay, that's nice.
Yeah.
And do they like have a lot of actual characters from the show integrated in it at all?
Um. I can't really say much for season 3 and 4 because I haven't played it, but I know season 1 had uh well, actually, sorry. Season 1 had Glenn, and then they also made like a spin-off series from Michonne. And so
Mm,
those two characters are actually in the TV series, but so far from what I remember, those are the only two characters from the shows and the games.
interesting. Did they use their actual voices too, the real actors?
That I don't know. I'm assuming not, but I don't know.
Interesting. Oh,
But
cool.
yeah, I mean, we can go to The Last of Us because I just want to bring up the Walking Dead just because I've just been in like a zombie binge this whole month.
Well, Last of Us isn't really our first topic though.
Oh, you're right. It's Xbox Direct. I totally forgot I
you
flipped it.
tried you tried really hard to segue in.
I totally forgot I flipped it. Um,
Okay.
but have you actually been? Well, I know you're not really into Xbox, but have you heard of Xbox Direct?
No. So it's actually funny when I saw it on social media, I immediately thought like, oh, they have their own direct, cool. And then, and you could correct me, but I thought I also was reading this is their first one,
Yes, they're taking a
which blew my
page.
mind. I was
They're,
like, what?
they're
How
taking a
did they?
page out of Nintendo's book and doing the
Oh, but
directs.
how is this? Like, it blew my mind when I read that, and I'm like, nah, that can't be right. I'm gonna wait till, ask Josh. And you're confirming that, and I'm like, okay, if that's true, how did it go so long without doing something like this? Like, and then to that point, like, I didn't know, and I don't mean to steal the spotlight from Xbox, but like, I didn't know then even Sony had their own version, and then obviously I know about Nintendo's because as you say, I'm the Nintendo guy. So, and those are usually always, I shouldn't say, there's definitely been misses, but they're always talked about and looking forward to. But yeah, so that's very interesting. Um, some of the other things I was reading, like, unfortunately, it didn't sound like it was received well. Not that it wasn't received well, I take that back. That they didn't think it was done well. But I didn't read like a ton of reviews. But I mean, what do you want out of it? For them to just showcase. It's what it is. It's a showcase. So I don't know. Maybe you could comment on that a little bit more and what your thoughts were and how long was it, by the way?
It was like 30, 40 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because that's kind of what Nintendos are. So.
Yeah. So going back, because I know the reason why you think they've done more before, because
Hmm.
PlayStation and Xbox have both done showcases. Because it was supposed to be like their substitute for like E3 and Gamescom and all that
Correct.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
So
That's what
they've
I was thinking.
done game shows or
Hmm.
game cases,
Hmm.
but Xbox was like looking at Nintendo and looking how popular Nintendo Direct was. So they're like, hey, let's show the fans what we were doing with Bethesda, and kind of giving them like brief little summaries of what they're doing, like kind of like a roadmap. And I
Yeah.
think that's
Okay.
why they want to do this, just to show game development when things are coming out, and obviously surprises like Nintendo does.
Hmm.
And for the majority part, I thought it was received well from people. Obviously,
Hmm.
people are probably also. I mean, if there is a negative, I'm assuming they're probably looking at like a showcase because they're expecting like an E3 presentation when that's not what this is
Not
supposed to be
what it's
about.
intended for. Yeah. Maybe that was kind of the negative stuff that I was reading about because of that comparison, which would make sense, but that's not the right way to go about thinking about it. So.
Yeah, and I think this one was actually done pretty well. I have an article right here from Polygon just to show the games, because I think they showed 5 games in this direct.
Hmm.
One was about Forza Motorsport 7, I think it is. Another
Hmm.
one was Minecraft Legends. Um, they obviously showed more gameplay of Redfall, showing like all the stuff you can do, which I think probably still a show for them because well, a lot of Xbox fans are looking forward to Redfall. It's like a 4-player co-op zombie slayer exploring game. um, they also had a thing called Hi-Fi Rush, and I think the reason why Xbox wanted to make this one the biggest debut yet is because you probably heard the narrative that, oh, Xbox acquired all these studios, but are they really doing anything with them? That was a
Hmm.
big fear for a while, and I think this Xbox Direct kind of said that, hey, look, we bought Bethesda 2 years ago, and now we have some games to show for it, which is Redfall. We have Hi-Fi Rush, which no one was expecting because I think they kept it under wraps pretty well. Where they're like, there's no leaks. Tango Studios, the one that made like The Evil Within, Ghostwire Tokyo, and they just had PlayStation exclusives. So they're like, hey, let's use their developing powers. Let's make a game. And then right when they announced, they're like, hey, after the show, it's available.
Yeah, just kind of like how Nintendo would do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, so far it seems really good, and obviously, Minecraft Legends. Minecraft is a giant game. People are looking forward to it. It seems like this might be their like Rust version, World of Warcraft version of Minecraft, because
Mm.
it's a massive open world experience. Every time you go in, it's a different experience. I
Hmm.
don't know how many players there are. It looked like there was over 100 on each team, but I could be wrong on that.
Damn.
But that looked like it
Interesting.
was pretty cool. And then obviously Redfall, seeing all the gameplay, different, it almost looked like they try and make Redfall an MMO, which it's not an MMO with how massive the map is.
Hmm.
So seeing the gameplay for that, it had me really excited because all these games are coming to Game Pass. So that means if you're a subscriber, you don't have to pay extra. It's just automatically included with your subscription day and date.
Cool, cool. Now, did they also do like kind of like the miniature showcase with all the like third-party developers to kind of give them a little what's coming? Because I know Nintendo does that as well.
Uh, no, not really. Well,
No?
I think the
Okay.
the Xbox Direct is supposed to just be the Xbox exclusive studios only. I think that's why. I think if they're gonna do like any indie stuff, it'll be like a more of like an Xbox showcase, like they do for E3. But
Hmm.
this I think is just for only Xbox studios like Bethesda. Um, what's it called? Oh man, they usually make like a lot of PC games like Age of Empires and all that stuff. It's just for their first price studios only, I think.
Gotcha, gotcha. So are they gonna do these? Are their intent to do a monthly or?
See,
Because I know that Nintendo doesn't do a monthly. I mean, how they? I don't even think they really have a static release schedule. I think it's just when they feel they have enough content to reveal, like you said, in a 30-minute session, which seems a bit odd, but
I'm assuming it's gonna be whenever they have stuff because obviously
yeah.
this lineup I think it was going towards till like May or July or something like that. So I'm assuming
Mm,
after that roadmap's done, they'll probably do another one to show more.
like a quarterly maybe,
Yeah,
just about, yeah. I mean, crap. I think Nintendo's really should be on the horizon. I think it definitely has to be next month, and people are extremely highly speculating a lot more Zelda information. Um, so yeah, we'll see. I always look forward to Nintendo, and unfortunately, like to your point, um, not an Xbox guy, but maybe I should go ahead and just watch this one for the shiggles and watch them coming out forward. I mean, even though I don't own one, don't intend to own one, but just to be up to speed. I mean, 30 minutes, 30 minutes. It's not a lot. And it's cool. I think there's always still a nice, cool sensation about watching reveals. I don't care what the platform is.
yeah,
It's just almost like sitting in a movie theater, right? Coming to like that's the vibe and the feel I get, and I
yeah.
think it's a cool one. So
Yeah, and also you get a cool surprise like, oh, hey, look at this new game today, and it's for free or whatever.
mm,
But I really think this also was an answer back to PlayStation because obviously PlayStation people they're like, oh, Xbox has all this stuff, but they have no games. I think Xbox really took that to heart. They're like, we have no games. Well, let's start making games. And I think this is they're like their equivalent of whatever PlayStation's doing because let's be honest, even though I have both systems, I think consumer wise Xbox is better, but game wise PlayStation obviously wins currently. But recently Xbox has been doing really well with their games, like High on Life, obviously besides the Justin Roiland thing, that game's been received well. Redfall's looking really hyped right now. Um, from what I've seen, Hi-Fi, I haven't played it yet. I plan on playing it soon, but so far from the people I know and seeing Twitter, it seems like they like it because kind of like a mixture of like Sunset Overdrive and Metal Hellsinger with like the beaten combo and all that stuff. So I mean, it's kind of nice to see some of these Xbox games actually being received well compared to just being crapped on.
so I'm gonna give you somewhat of an opportunity to kind of sell me an Xbox. Does do they have? Because obviously most people know that may listen to podcasts. I adore RPGs. So do they have their own RPG with just Xbox? Does that exist?
Well, it depends. Well, yes, they do, and I think it might sell you because obviously, one, their new RPG is Skyrim, or not Skyrim, Elder Scrolls, because they just bought that. But if you want to go back a little further, which is considered still probably one of the gold standards for RPGs, is the Fable series.
I have heard about Fable. Yes, wasn't that used to be Dreamcast?
No, it was purely
Was Fable?
Xbox.
Oh, you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking of Shenmue. My bad.
Yeah,
Um,
Fable was made
Fable.
by Xbox Studios, and it was only an Xbox exclusive title.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, no, I do recall that, and I remember looking at it, and obviously it's very adored by fans, and it wasn't enough to push me over the ledge, but yeah, I do remember that one. That's a good one. But
But if
all
you're not
right,
talking about, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was kind of done. I guess if I throw like an additional comment on that, like God, better say God forbid, but like maybe Microsoft does got to get a little nasty and play hardball and maybe throw more money like Squeenix's way or something, and have them try to make something exclusive for them because, um, that does change the tide with Final Fantasy and stuff. So
See, the
I know
Final
they'll get it eventually, but that those time exclusives, man, like they are what they are.
some of the Final
You know,
Fantasy games are not coming to Xbox. They're only exclusive on PlayStation. No time gate. It's just PlayStation only. Like Final Fantasy
so
VII
it's
so far has no actual time for it to come out. Like
really
there's not even talks that's coming to Xbox.
the remake never came to Xbox.
Nope, and there's no rumors or talks that ever will. So far, it seems like it's locked on PlayStation.
What? I swear to you, I thought that was a time exclusive.
So far, Final Fantasy VII, the old one, is on Xbox.
Yeah, yeah.
All
No,
that
I'm,
stuff,
I'm
but the
so,
remake is not on Xbox.
wow. Okay, is Crisis Core? Do you know, is that one on it?
Nope, that'll not come to Xbox either.
Holy mother! Okay, see, that's a revelation to me. I swear to you, I thought remake was a time exclusive. 15.
15's on there, yeah.
Okay, and then the
I
rumors are 16 isn't gonna make it.
16 might be a timed exclusive. I don't know about that because obviously it's not out. But so far, it's just PlayStation right now. If that changes later, I don't know.
Interesting. Hmm. Wow, I was misinformed. Well, either way, time exclusive or not, that's even worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just it kind of, you know, it does suck for them to, not have that huge IP part of their. I mean, they do still a job with what their library they have, but when you got something like that in your back pocket, that's a challenge. So
Well, they're also having. I'm not. See, and one thing that may shoot Xbox in the foot is that because Game Pass is so popular, they're trying to go for the universal route. There's no real reason to buy an Xbox if you have a PC because Game Pass is also on PC. So you have their whole
yeah,
library on PC as
yeah.
well.
So the fact that it's awesome that it's accessible. To your point, they're shooting themselves in the foot because I have a PC. If I want to enjoy their whole library, I get it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I
That's why I
don't
said. Well,
think there's any actual. No, Halo Infinite's on PC. I'm trying to think. I think Gears 5 might also be PC. I'm trying to remember if there's like any Xbox only games, but I think most of them are, or if not all of them are on PC as well.
gotcha. Yeah. How much is that a year?
Um, they might. I don't know if they changed it, but from what I remember, it's like 14.99 a month,
Okay.
and they constantly
Well,
update the game catalog every 2 weeks.
so if you do, is there like an annual sub option? And if so, does it have
Oh,
like a little
probably.
bit of
Yeah.
like dollar
Uh,
savings? Like
Yeah,
going
like
to
if
a
you
WoW
buy like a
subscription?
year, you get you save $20 or something like that.
Yeah. So it's like a buck 20 or something.
Yeah.
Maybe I should really take a hard look at it just for once again shits and giggles.
Well, and also too, like you're asking for RPGs and all this stuff. They
Yeah.
recently just acquired, not acquired, but now on Game Pass. I don't know if it's on PC, but I know it's on Xbox. They've acquired the Persona series. I know you like stories like that. Um, they also have Final Fantasy games on there as well. 14, not 14. Yeah, do they have 14? I know
I
they have
think
14
14
on it,
is.
but I don't know if it's on Game Pass. But I know they have 15. They have X1, X2, and some of the other Final Fantasy games on there.
I still have X1, X2 remastered on PS.
I think they
What?
also have Final Fantasy 8 on there too. But
I
it's
think
the
people
old version, like they're remastered for like PS3 or 2.
gotcha. I know people are clamoring for a now an 8 remake, but
Oh, dude, I would love that. I know I call him Leon, even
yeah.
though his name is Squall or
And
something like that.
I could see why you would get him confused.
Because in Kingdom Hearts, they
But
call him Leon. They don't call him Leonhart or Squall. They just call him Leon in Kingdom Hearts. And I think that's
gotcha.
why I know him as that name.
but but yeah, if they were to do that, I would definitely play it. But I don't really find a reason to play the original at this point. But yeah, that's cool. Xbox Direct. I was just shocked to learn that they hadn't been doing anything like that. So Like, kudos to them for finally doing it.
I wonder if PlayStation has something similar. It's not called PlayStation Direct. It's like
No, I don't even know what it's
PlayStation
called.
Show or something. I know it's like they release like a single a single episode dedicated to one game only, like God of War,
Mm,
Forspoken, whatever. I wonder if they're gonna start taking the direct approach now that the Xbox is jumping on the Nintendo bandwagon.
mm-hmm,
Because I know
mm-hmm,
they do like the weekly or the monthly blog, which I read because it usually like introduces more games like PlayStation Plus or whatever's coming next, which I think is great. But to see like a video format of that would be cool too.
I concur. And they could just I don't know how Xbox did their release, but you just throw it on their whatever their PS5
Yeah,
and
home screen.
4,
Yeah.
yeah, home screen, and keep it up there for a couple weeks, and or even have a countdown going live thing, making an event. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm all for it. I love the ideas, and like I said, I feel like most people love the coming soon aspect of it.
Oh, very much so.
Even if it's like, like I said, like the way Nintendo does it, they'll obviously showcase their main ones, right? Their main IPs, and then they'll have that like same 2-3 minute period where they'll give a montage, right, of like a bunch of games. And like I think one that we watched back in shit, what was that? Probably August, September, and they finally revealed the Octopath 2, and I was floored. So yeah, I love it. I love that shit.
Oh, speaking of which, another RPG, Octopath is also on Game Pass too.
Yeah, but I replayed it. So
I know, but you get like the better version of it though. You get the better version.
No.
But going back a little bit because I've talked about this before, but I wonder if this is also going to bring more competition as well because like obviously Xbox and PlayStation have been competing with each other since like the beginning of time, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, but I wonder if PlayStation is going to slowly bend to doing what Xbox is doing, where like obviously with this direct you see all these games, but it's like also including Game Pass. I wonder if PlayStation is going to do this now, where they do a showcase, but then it's also going to be like included with PlayStation Plus. Because so far they don't do that.
Mm.
Which business wise makes more sense because they make more money that way. But consumer wise, it'd be better the opposite way.
Hmm. I think it goes. Once again, going back to greed and money, and then also to that line of thought of shooting yourself in the foot aspect. If you throw it like the convenience and the customer satisfaction of throwing it on their plus would be phenomenal, but now they're losing those dollars of forcing you to go out and buy a full retail game, right? It's one of those things like if it's working for them, why would they change it?
Yeah.
And until I think they start seeing dollars lost, then they might implement something like that just to get that up. And then at the very same time, they could still slowly take that away again.
Yeah.
Like, they have that luxury within themselves to do that.
Yep. That's very true. Because like,
So,
as much as like obviously I think they're trying as hard as they can to milk it as long as possible. Like
oh
The
yeah, for
Last of
sure.
Us, for example. Like I mean, obviously they had the PS3 version, they had the remastered version for PS4, and now the remake for PS5. I'm like, you couldn't include that with PlayStation Plus. You're gonna keep it $70 and not include it with PlayStation Plus. I'm like, come on now. I don't
Like,
even think they have the remake or remastered on PlayStation Plus. Now that I think about it, they had two at one point, but they took it off. It was like a 3 month exclusive period, and then
mm,
they've just removed it from PlayStation Plus.
mm. Yeah, I mean, not to defend the price point because the price point is ridiculous, first and foremost, but the fact that it even is higher, like, kind of makes sense because well, I can't even say it because I didn't play it, but like, when you say remastered, it wasn't a full remake then, right? It was just like, I thought it was a remake in a
From what
sense.
from what I from
Like
what
the
I've
whole engine was rebuilt.
Yes, like they added
Okay,
better
so,
facial animations, they added better lighting, accessibility
okay.
options, but like they had The Last of Us 2, so were they really putting that much development power to remake that stuff instead of just reusing old assets? Like it's not like
Yeah,
Final Fantasy 7 where they really had to actually make a new engine from scratch. They kind of
correct.
had a base already.
And that's the kind of the point that I was going to use here is like, yeah, they're charging more, and that's wrong because of what you just described, right? Like the probably efficiency of being able to reuse an engine, but at the same time they did kind of not just remaster it, but kind of rehash it out, remake it, similar to Crisis Core, right? But Crisis Core, they only charged, what was it,
thirty
$40 or
dollars,
$40? Yeah,
30
like
$40, yeah.
I was floored that
Yeah,
they
and
only
that's a
charged about,
really big overhaul compared to the
and that was a
original.
huge overhaul from the original. Huge overhaul. You're going from a PSP to this, but not only that, the graphical engine of it, even the playstyle of it a little bit. So the fact that Square Enix only charged that much, I mean, I'm not going to actually physically applaud here, but seriously, I mean, they kind of should be applauded a little bit for that.
So
Because they could have easily sold that as a $60-$70 game as
oh,
well.
100%. But also, I'm not saying that as well. I'm saying as a negative, but also positive because
Hmm.
I'm glad they removed it.
Hmm.
But so in the remake of the PS5 version of Last of Us, they removed the multiplayer. So they actually took away content, which, as
Mm,
much as that sounds like a negative, I'm kind of happy they did because I didn't want to
it's
play the
not.
multiplayers for the trophies.
Oh,
Some
oh,
people loved that multiplayer. I didn't. So for me, it's a
gotcha,
positive, but for some people, it might be a negative. But
gotcha.
they took away content and still added $10 more on it.
Hmm. Wow, yeah. I mean, but once again, they got away with it, right? And
Yeah.
they made money. So they understood their market and who was going to pay.
Yeah. So I am curious to see if this like puts a little pressure on PlayStation. Most likely it won't because I mean, let's be real. No matter what,
Hmm.
they're still gonna be successful.
Yeah,
But I wonder if it's gonna push a little bit of buttons here and there.
time will tell.
So I guess we can move on to number two, which is still The Last of Us because it's such a big thing right now.
Yeah, it's
Um,
huge. And I guess even before getting to the actual meat and veggies of the topic here, and I don't know if you read this before we started our podcast, but I believe it just became news today, kind of fresh. Season 2 greenlit
yeah, they were already like
officially
casting
now.
Abby and all that stuff.
Yeah, and yeah, so I mean that some people were already saying it took this long. Well, sometimes it takes a couple episodes, but yeah, I don't think there's any surprises there. The success is just massive. I did not. Did you get to see episode 2 numbers at all? Because I have not.
This is one of the shows where I don't care about the numbers. I'm just caring about if
Oh,
they
okay,
do good to the game.
gotcha. So I mean, I wasn't necessarily caring either, but did we get to talk about the episode 1 numbers at all last week
Yes,
with Joel?
I think you mentioned it. I
You
forgot
think I
exactly what
mentioned?
you said, but it
Oh,
was like a huge spike in the first week, and then
I'll just repeat anyways. So I think it was the first night, first day, 24-hour period. I think they got like 4.7 million, which is only second behind House of Dragons. It was like 10 million. So, but it was their second highest all time for HBO, right? And then I think the first 5 days they eventually got like 10 million views. So extremely well. I do not know what episode 2 did. And now I'm a little interested to find that out because when we talked about House of Dragons all the time, we saw how every episode it just increased and it was just mind blowing. But but yeah, I did watch episode 2. I once again I loved it. Kind of though my only drawback is the fact that it was shorter than episode 1. Which is going to be a recurring theme going out, and that's it is what it is. One thing I will say that I like with both episodes, and I'm actually curious now, come Sunday with episode 3, if they're going to keep the same. How can I put it? The same architecture for the episode, and what I mean by that is like both episodes started with a little bit of a origin, right?
mhm.
Before it actually went into the episode, and I really like that. And I could, without knowing anything that's going to happen in episode 3, um, I could kind of see them doing something similar with wherever the fuck it is they're ending up at. Like they could give them the little origin Genesis story and then go back into Joel and Ellie. So if that's the format, like throughout the whole season, I think that'd be pretty cool. But obviously that remains to be seen. Um, but our topic is Last of Us show story changes. For those that can't actually see it. So the unique thing about Josh and I talking about Last of Us through its season here is, if you haven't already figured it out, I have not played it. Josh has. So this makes, I feel like, conversation very unique because he has obviously a very knowledge base and knows what's supposed to happen and is going to happen versus I do not. So let's go in here and have it, Josh. What's your story changes from 1 and 2?
So before we get into it, I just want to say if you haven't seen episode 1 and 2,
Yeah,
spoiler alerts,
good
but
point.
we're only going to cover episode 1 and 2. I'm not going to go any further than that. So I'm only going to cover from episode 1, 2, and what the games cover leading up to that time period. So for the majority of the part, I think it's done pretty well. I was actually really, really impressed with how they did the clickers and the little sneak scene with
Mm-hmm.
the zombies, because that's exactly how the game does it. But I was a little disappointed that they're making slight deviation changes. Like, for example, in episode 1, where, what's his name? Robert, Bobby, whatever his name is, the guy that beats up Tess, and that has her, like, locked up
Oh
in a
yeah,
room,
yeah, 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 yeah. Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm,
then you see him die just quickly off screen. They
mm-hmm,
completely cut off a section. Obviously, I know that they have to, keep the story moving along. They don't want to go too far. But I
mm-hmm,
feel like they remove some aspects of the show that kind of builds character relationships together and
mm-hmm,
how you go forward. Because, like, right now, The Last of Us feels like it's like a Hobbit movie where it's just all journey, no action, which kind of sucks. I mean, obviously, you got the cool clicker part, which I think they did a fantastic job.
mm-hmm,
Um, but in the Last of Us games, there's a lot more human fighting than there is zombie fighting.
mm-hmm,
And it's almost like they removed that, and I don't know why they did that.
mm-hmm.
Because, like,
Interesting.
with episode 1, at the very end, where Ellie, Joel, and Tess were leaving the Fedra HQ,
Mm-hmm,
or QZ, or whatever it's called,
mm-hmm,
there's in the game, there's actually a huge section of the game where you're actually sneaking past the soldiers,
mm-hmm,
and then leading to episode 2, that's where they catch up to you. Instead of
mm-hmm,
Tess dying by zombies, she actually
mm-hmm.
has to have a standoff with the soldiers instead.
Gotcha. Um, I mean, obviously, I have no answers as to why they deviated, right? So like, you obviously know they deviated, and how can I put it? Your thoughts on that is you don't like it.
I don't, because I feel like I mean, obviously it doesn't have to have action, but I feel like there's too many down periods in the game, in the show, where it's like
Mm-hmm,
just talking, and
mm-hmm.
that's kind of boring to me. I don't want.
Gotcha.
Obviously, it doesn't need to be like a John Wick movie or show,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I feel like they could add more action with the humans, which they've completely cut out. Because one of the things that kind of showcases more about Joel's character is he's
Mm-hmm,
kind of brutal towards other humans. He's
mm-hmm.
killed, he's stabbed, tortured, and you
Which
don't
is,
see that right now.
well, I mean, you got that one part where
He
he
beats up the soldier.
punched him to death.
But that's like a very
Uh,
tame version of what happens in the game.
Gotcha. Um, I mean, I dare I say only assume that's probably still going to happen, but once again, we don't know, right? I don't know. Like, I don't have the answers. I hope, with it being a new show and not knowing its potential success, we don't know what budget restrictions they had, right? Like, you talk now that the first scene with the guy, right? Whatever his name was, like that's something that, to your point, could have probably easily been done. They already had the guy casted. They showed him. Fortunately, I had a scene and a half, right? Because it was one speaking scene and one, well, you're lying or dead scene. So that's something they probably could have done versus the one that you talked about with going, not through the museum, that was after the museum, wherever the hell the like you said, the federal people were at. Was it the federal people or the Fireflies?
So sneaking out, it was a Fedra, because um, I think there was like a fight between the Fireflies and Joel, and then Fedra obviously came in. They kind of mentioned that in the first episode, like Fedra's gonna close in on us in 5 minutes,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's why
because
when
of
they
the
were leaving
gunshots.
and then
Yeah.
when they were leaving the QZ, you could see like helicopters, all that stuff. It's
Mm-hmm.
because they were
Yeah.
searching for them, and they
Gotcha.
completely cut out that searching part.
Okay. I thought you meant at the end of the episode that was also feds.
Hmm?
No?
Oh yeah, at the
At
end
the
of
end
the
of the
episode, for
episode.
episode 1, it was Fedra.
Y-
Yeah.
No, 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 two.
Oh yeah,
Where
yeah.
Tess,
Episode 2, where Tess dies, it
yeah,
wasn't zombies that killed her. It
correct.
was
So
soldiers.
like that, yeah, so like that. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense either because they cast people being zombies
Yeah.
versus, well, soldiers you would have to prop them up with all the gear and weapons and stuff. I don't know. Like here I am, playing devil's advocate, trying to figure it out. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Because, like, I know how you mentioned earlier about budget. Like, there's
Yeah.
a couple scenes, like, when Joel and Tess were going underneath the sewers and they see that zombie on the wall. There's
Hmm.
actually more to that, but I
Hmm.
understand that because, like if you look at the two clickers that they showed before in episode 2, like how
Hmm.
detailed that was, that probably cost a lot of
Yeah.
money just to do the makeup and all that. So I
Yeah.
understand why they're not doing more of those zombie scenes because it probably costs a lot of money.
Hmm.
But and that's why I understand that part being cut out. But with the human soldiers only just having like a vest on, I feel like that wouldn't have cost too much to actually shoot that scene.
Gotcha.
Because like same thing with them going through obviously they did the museum part, which I think was fantastic, done really well. Like
Uh,
the clickers in the show were exactly like the video games, but they also versed more zombies uh in that whole hotel area and all this stuff. And like I
gotcha.
said, that one's passed because budget, but why the humans though?
Yeah. Hmm. I think that would be a fantastic question to obviously ask the producers, right? Like all the different deviations. I mean, they claim, right, and we talked about this ad nauseum too. That they weren't going to deviate. But here you are, bringing up some of them. I'm sure they have their reasons. I mean, me personally, like I think that's where you become a hard. I'm not saying it to blame you. You would be a harder critic because you've experienced it this way and you were passionate about experiencing it this way, and now you're seeing it done this way. Versus me, it's like I don't know that way. I'm just loving it, right? Like I think it. I would have never known, right? It all made sense to me, right? Um, so I think in that line of thought, as long as it's still making sense, then you know dare I say, who cares? but I know you do. But like, you know what I'm getting at? I don't know if that makes sense. But
Yeah,
like,
but I think another thing too is
like
another
unless that I'm sorry if I could just get this last point out. Unless that actual scene like really I know this might be hard for you to answer. Unless that scene really needed to go that way because it has an adverse effect to future things, then I kind of get it, right? But I don't. But that's things I don't know. So.
and this is what confuses me about like the final part of episode 2 where Tess
Hmm.
is trying to light the thing and blow up and all
Hmm.
that stuff. The zombie kisses her, which I thought was weird because I don't think in any of the games has any infected ever did that to any human. So it's kind of
Gotcha.
weird to see. I mean, obviously it makes a little sense that the fungus is trying to connect and
Uh huh.
infect,
Uh huh.
but why the kiss aspect?
Yeah, I was trying to think of what that reminded me of. That reminded me of like some other.
Resident Evil where the tentacles go into
Did
Jill's mouth.
did that happen? I was trying to remember. Like it looked very familiar to me, but I can't remember what. Um, Maybe I'll come clicking in my mind later. But um, I mean, once again, I'll admit it did look weird.
Yeah, it was kind of
Um,
weird.
but like once again, I like kind of dare I say understood it. Like the reason why I also too liked it is like going back to the 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 zombie theory and how it's supposed to work and how dare I say how it has to work. Like it doesn't have to always work with a fucking bite and then it spreads through a bite. So that's why I kind of like somewhat appreciated it because it was different. Um, um, as awkward as it looked, different. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Like once again, you know
Well,
how it spreads a little bit maybe differently, but
I
I'll probably
now that you
find out.
mention
But
it, it kind of makes a little bit sense because they cut this part out. You're not going to see in the shows, and I know you don't care about the games, but in the games, another way to get infected is not just a bite; it's a respiratory thing. Where if you go into a room like the sewers, if you see spores in the air, you have to wear a mask so you don't inhale that. If you inhale it, you're going to turn.
yeah,
And I wonder if that's what the kiss is supposed to be, where it could be respiratory as well.
yeah. Why did I? Where did I hear that? Or I thought they did make a slight mention. No, they did, didn't they?
They did it
Because
because they didn't
the,
want the
the
actors
live
wearing masks.
the
Uh,
live sports versus the dead sports, right? That's why they tested by banging
yeah.
on I guess if you want to call it the vine or whatever. Which once again I think is a cool concept. It's actually quite scary, a scary concept that they were all the way over there and you happen to touch their connection and it gives away your location. That's fucked up.
And I think this is why because that also doesn't happen in the games either.
Okay.
They don't connect it like that, and that's a
Hmm.
unique thing to the show. But I
Hmm.
think they're doing that because they're not going to show the spores in the air because they I suppose the reason why they don't want to do is they don't want the actors to wear the mask because it'll muffle the noise and all that stuff and wouldn't be good for viewership. So I think that's
Gotcha.
why they're making the vines act like a nervous system. And I
Hmm.
think maybe that's a substitute there, is that instead of doing spores, they're doing the vines
Hmm.
instead.
So as a video game player, do you like that concept?
I
I
mean,
put you on the spot
it's
there.
cool, but on the other hand, the spore, like the inhaled spores, also adds to Ellie's character because,
Mm.
you know, now she's immune to it right now, so she has to hide the aspect that she puts on a mask to pretend she's normal, but
Mm,
really she could breathe in.
gotcha.
Everybody else has to wear masks, so it kind of takes a little bit of the character there. But is a huge thing. I wouldn't say really, but it also it adds to the character. So I don't know if I really like it or hate it. I think I'm just neutral at this point for that.
Gotcha. Probably need to see more to come up with that resolution.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, once again, dare I sound fanboyish, but I'm loving it. It's can't wait for three. Plus, Nick Offerman. Nick Offerman's fucking awesome. Love Nick Offerman. Don't get
So
him in a lot of
so
things,
you
but
spoiled it for yourself. I'm not gonna mention anything about it, but the
no,
fact that
don't mention anything.
you know who's casted as who is hilarious.
Well, I don't know who he's casted it. I have no idea who he's playing. I just know that, hey, that's Nick Offerman. I like me some Nick Offerman. I can't wait. So
Do you like him from Parks and Recreations or something
I've
else?
never watched that show. Where have I seen him before? I
George
mean,
Lopez show.
no. I mean, I've seen him like as a guest on Conan, I guess. But no, there has to be something I've seen him for that I liked him. I just can't fucking remember. But I think he's a pretty awesome actor in his own right, and
He's also
and
funny too.
funny. And I don't. It makes me want to Google this. But is he also a Chicago guy?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know about that last part, but yeah, I could dig some Nick Offerman, so I'm looking forward to that and seeing what role he plays and all that good stuff. So
So going back to the story changes,
yeah,
which I think this is a great addition. And I know
yeah,
Neil Druckmann was throwing shots at Game of Thrones saying they weren't going to deviate, which I
yeah.
think that's a horrible idea because there's some things you have to deviate on.
Mm-hmm,
But I really do, like you said earlier, the additions of like the origin stories of like, the
mm-hmm.
scientists talking about fungus and how it could
Yeah,
evolve, and then
yeah.
with episode 2, where
Mm-hmm,
like I was saying before, in the games, obviously it's
mm-hmm,
not told to you in your face. You have to read the
mm-hmm,
collectibles that the
mm-hmm,
fungus spread from like wheat and crops, and they
mm-hmm.
show that in episode 2,
Yeah,
which I think
and
is
and
awesome.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, I wouldn't have known that, like I said, but I just like let's talk about that whole sequence for a moment here. Like, so, like you said, it's like loosely referenced in the show. I'm sorry, in the game, not in your face, like how they did in the show. So, with that said, like that whole beginning part, was that all told through like you said, like the files that you would find and
Yeah.
stuff? So they told you it originated in said country, said way.
I don't think
They
they said
brought they
Indonesia. I think they just like it was like a newspaper and it said
uh-huh.
scientists discover new fungus on crops or whatever, or wheat,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Mm-hmm.
that's how it kind of like goes forward.
Yeah.
But of course, I when I read this was like 2013, so my
Gotcha.
memory on that is very faint. But I know it came from collectibles in the game.
Yeah. No, yeah, like I said, I definitely loved. I'm loving that format, and whether or not we get something similar in episode 3 will be interesting. But that was really cool. Also, this is might be something I missed, so maybe you could answer for me. Going back to Tess, was she already bit, or did it happen in the museum?
It happened in the museum,
Oh, okay.
and that's where
But they just didn't even show it, right?
yeah, which is the weird part because it was like a big deal in the game. Like she goes off, she gets attacked by a couple of them, and then that's where she
Mm-hmm.
gets bit. And
Mm-hmm.
then obviously the freak out scene is pretty much what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, for some reason, I remember her shooting herself in the head. But then
Mm-hmm.
I remember that after looking at the game again, I'm like, oh, she had to stand up with the soldiers. That's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, that she got infected in the museum.
Gotcha. Okay. Because I was a little wondered by that. I was like, well, no. If she had it for that long, that she probably would have turned already. But yeah. But that's what I was thinking too. Maybe if she did have it before, that's what made that scene more impactful when she started then more realizing that Ellie could be some sort of savior in this. And that's why it was hard for me to kind of put it together. I'm like, well, did it happen, or did she already have it? She was hiding it for that time, like that bitch. But like, so like, I wasn't too sure, but you said it happened in museums. Okay, got it. Back.
But also,
Um,
also to go on too, because I want to say this before I forget, and I want to hear other people's opinion on this, because it's a pretty big change, and I don't know like why they did it and if it has a significance later. But the date that the world ended wasn't 2003; it was 2013 in the game, and it happened. I
they
think
keep
it was October
referencing
3rd or
2000.
29th, or
They
is
keep referencing 2003, right?
yeah.
And then the other part is the present day takes place in our actual current year of 2023, which I'm like, I know that probably doesn't happen in the game, but probably maybe it does. You know, maybe they released it 5 years ago and they chose this year. Who knows? Um, so yeah, I thought that was interesting, but like once again, for me, the context behind that was just like, you know, they're kind of just dates.
Well, that's what I thought too. Is that it
But
was just a date, but the fact that they
yeah,
changed it from the game to the show, now I'm starting to wonder if there's a
I
significance to that.
I if I may just pull something out of my ass and create significance, um, maybe it's just to lure people in a lot better because of COVID, right? You know, we just got through COVID. It's this year. Use the real year. Like I kind of see it as a luring tactic.
So it's just to correlate with current events instead of actually being like a significance with the story.
I That's my line of thought. Um, but once again, I'm just pulling that out of my ass.
I mean, really, that probably that's most likely why they did it.
Yeah, it sounds like something that could make sense, and then I think it's a dare to say I think it's a good tactic, right? You know, especially the way they sold that spread, right? Like you know, you got COVID still fresh on people's minds, and how it like you said spreads airborne, and
And people are so worried
um,
about climate change and getting warmer and all that stuff. So
right? They're adding a lot of real life elements to that, right?
yeah,
And I think that's really what lures people even excuse me lures people in, and I guarantee you probably like Google searches of what is it called? Cordyceps?
cordyceps.
Cordyceps. I'm sure people are searching the fuck out of that lately more.
I mean,
And
because I mean, it's a real thing where there's no
no,
actual
we
like medical like deterrent. It's a fungus.
exactly, and that's I think that what adds the layer of scariness to it, right? Because like you know, there's people out there like probably even freaking like, oh my god, like this could really happen. Like, I mean, that's why they're afraid of HIV mutations as well, because if an HIV mutation gets airborne, we're all fucked. I
Yeah.
mean, it could happen with a lot of different viruses. I mean, hell, it did happen with COVID. COVID mutated a handful of times, if not more.
Mm.
So, in reality, is it a scary thought? It is. Is it something we normally think about? No. But when you bring it to light as a possibility, yeah, it's a possibility. God forbid if it happens, but you
I
know.
just think the people that did this research, because obviously this, the game happened in 2013. That's when they made it or released it. But
Hmm.
obviously, I can't remember the exact date, but I know there's like this whole thing about like 2012 where they're saying people eating faces, and it turns out it's bath salts, and they're looking at zombie seahorses and all that stuff. I wonder if that's what
Yeah.
inspired the game, is that they're showing all this information in the news beforehand. They're like, hey, this is a very
Also,
interesting concept.
I think Ebola might have been going
Oh
around
yeah,
that time.
yeah, Ebola's happening
Where,
too.
yeah, yeah. So, so yeah. Oh man, I don't know what else to add right now, but trying to think if there's something else that I could bring to light with the shows, but um, yeah. I mean, I'm just enjoying it, man. Keep
You
saying
don't
that,
you don't
and I'll keep
you
saying
don't
it.
find like the whole just only talking, very little action, not boring? Because I think maybe
That
because going
doesn't.
from the game, playing it, seeing a lot of
Yeah.
action, I think that's what's throwing me off.
No, that doesn't bother me, man. To be honest with you, hasn't bothered me yet.
And it's weird that I say it because obviously
Maybe it's.
I like
Oh,
slow
I'm
stuff
sorry.
like
Go
Lord
ahead.
of the Rings, and that's
Yeah,
all about journey. But for
yeah.
some reason, when you play the game with a lot of action and then only seeing the journey part, it's kind of weird.
I think like I said, and I think I mentioned this a little bit last week on last week's episode, where the part that I really like is the fact that despite the spread aspect of it, but they gave you the origin story up front
Hmm.
and didn't no gray area versus other zombie type apocalyptic
Where they keep
shows.
it vague and they try to build
They
on
keep
it.
it vague or a secret, or they're not even concerned about letting you know because maybe they don't know or they're afraid it's going to suck. Who knows? Um, but I really appreciate that, and I like that, and I think that's really the part that kind of like really lured me in. But that's just my perception, my opinion. It probably doesn't work for everybody, but um, like the scary factor there isn't there for me at all. Like I think I had more. I wouldn't say jump scares, but I think I had more like scary moments in Walking Dead than I
Yeah.
did in this show so far. Like
I,
the clickers were fucking amazing. Don't get me wrong, but I for whatever reason I wasn't scared by them.
I
I,
think that's the difference between like The Last of Us is like, you know, I think the reason why people like it so much is because it's not meant to be. I mean, obviously there's horror aspects to it, but it's more the narrative that grabs you than any scary part.
hmm
And I think that's
hmm
why people aren't watching it for the zombies because it's just
hmm
there to build upon the world, not actually to scare you.
hmm Yeah, I mean it's definitely suspenseful, right? And then the drama's there, but not saying I'm looking to get scared and horrified. But but yeah, they got me lured in, I guess, with the Ellie story, right? I mean, as as reoccurring as they've used that theme in other things, like it's still drawn me in. Like I gotta know now. Um, and yeah, I don't know, just anything with Survivor part, really, it's kind of really cool, and looking forward to see where it goes.
So I know you haven't played the games, but one of my main concerns going forward is obviously they're making deviations. I mean, so far they're doing the best they can. I rate
hmm
this like a 7, 8 out of 10. But
hmm
I'm concerned that they're gonna run out of story really fast, or they're gonna force it, because obviously you said season 2 is already in the works.
hmm
Um, and also recently PlayStation or Naughty Dog announced that they're completely abandoning the Uncharted series and
Yep.
they're only focusing on The Last of Us and going full force on The Last of Us 3.
I don't think that's true either. I don't think that's true.
Well, they
I
officially
think
abandoned Uncharted. That's what they
no,
said.
no, that part's true. I apologize. Yes, you're right about that part. But the go full force on Last of Us, I don't think that part's true. I don't think they're unless they're just trying to swerve. But the last things I was reading about was they're not 100% sure now. Because remember last week I brought this
Yeah,
up that they
they're
were
probably gonna
talking about
chop it
it,
after 3.
huh?
That they're probably gonna chop it after 3, maybe do something else.
No, that so it's amazing what it changed in just 1 week time frame. Last week they were pretty much sold that they said they had more story to tell. They didn't really say they were making, but they had more story to tell. Now this week they're saying there's double backing on that, like yeah, there's more story to tell, but they also said they're content where it ended.
Hmm. If that's the case, man,
Which
that'd be
yeah, I'll
really
find the article
interesting.
and I'll share it with you. I when I read that I was like, oh man, I'm just getting into this. So I don't know.
I feel like that'd be man, if they're gonna do that, they should end it with the first one because the second one. Not
Nope,
saying
you can't say
anything.
it.
I'm not saying anything, but I'm just saying like The Last of Us 2, they can't end it there. I feel like yeah, they just can't end it there.
Yeah, that's what I read, and I was like, oh man, like what the hell happened in 1 week? So, but now to go co-sign with you and Joel last week about your concerns. Well, now I could see them because without even knowing anything, right? Because here we are, you know the script, right? And you know the timetable. So by episode, you see your progress bar with the game, right? So, with it, if it is only going to just be a 2 game series, and the show only is going to cover that, A, that would suck. But B, if they deviate and go past it, which you guys didn't want,
Well, at this point,
uh,
if they stop it at The Last of Us 2, they need to deviate because they're what Neil Druckmann was worried about is having a season 8 issue. They would have a season 8 issue if they did that for Game of
yeah.
Thrones.
So so let me, I guess, riddle me this, Batman. Let's say it gets confirmed. Naughty Dog says, nope, Last of Us is done too. And they go through this show and they do more. Where would you stand on that?
Are you saying like they're not gonna make any more games, but they're gonna continue after the story of Last of Us 2 making the show? I'd be happy with that because if they
Okay,
just ended it at The Last of Us 2, that would be a really huge issue.
gotcha. Okay. Well, I mean, once again, that kind of says a lot. Time will tell.
Yeah, because like
Um,
my worry wasn't like if they were gonna deviate,
mhm.
from the like if they're gonna build past the game and the game was gonna come up, but if they're gonna completely cancel the third game and they just build on the show, I'm fine with that. But it would be like that catch up period where the third game's not out, but they gotta make a third
Yeah,
season. That'd be my issue.
gotcha,
But if they
gotcha. But as
cancel it,
long as
I'll be fine.
gotcha, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
No.
man. I can't wait till that time point happens so I can talk about it because like once you get to that point, you'll be like you'll understand why I'm saying what I'm saying because like
I'm
yeah.
sure. I believe you wholeheartedly, no doubt. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think if there's another comp to that, but I guess one, well, not apples comparison, but did you watch um that remake of the Thundercats show that was like an anime? Did we
I
ever
have
talk about
not, but I
that?
heard it was good.
Yeah, I think I might have it on Blu-ray. I'll see. Maybe I can let you borrow it or something. But yeah, that was only one season and it was fucking great. And same thing, it just ends and it's like you can't do that.
Yeah.
But it
That's
happened.
that's the thing with shows that get really good, but they might not have the viewership to support a second season. Because like
Yeah.
I know we talked about in like 3 episodes ago about Netflix canceling shows because we were talking about like even though it was perceived well, there wasn't enough viewership to justify the budget, and that's why they were canceling it. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's what happens to mostly shows that they are received well, just the viewership isn't there to support
Yeah, you
it.
maybe the article popped up on my timeline again, and I was probably gonna tag you after you liked it. One of those situations, but I saw it and I was about to, but then I didn't. But yeah, I saw that too about the Netflix cancellations, and it's like, and they kind of explained that. I was like, oh, this is perfect for Josh.
Yeah, because like they're
Um,
'cause, like I was telling you, I liked 1888. I thought or 1899, and I thought it was good,
yeah,
and everybody else seemed to loved it too. But then
hmm
they're like, nope, done. And I was
yeah,
like, oh, that sucks. But then they're like, it just the budget versus viewers, it just wasn't working out. That's why they had to cut it.
yeah. I mean, like, I guess another one for me would be, I mean, I think they tried to end it, but I also has a soft spot in my heart because I actually was a background actor on it. But the show The Boss,
Oh,
we
I
had
thought you were gonna
Kel.
say cheapskates.
No, yeah, no, not that one. No, that one. We don't talk about that one. No, no, the show The Boss was only 2 seasons. It was on Stars and it starred, no pun intended, Kelsey Grammer. But it was pretty much the quick synopsis is Kelsey Grammer was Chicago mayor, so it was kind of like a politics drama show. But I enjoyed it, even though, like I said, I only watched it because I was on it. Otherwise, I probably never would have watched it. But
When you say you're
no,
on it, were you only on it for like a brief second? Were you actually on it for
oh yeah,
multiple episodes?
yeah, no, just like here's a screen. There, I was on it. No, I was just a background. I was just a background actor. I was typecasted
Oh,
as a boom
Walker.
operator for one of the news stations.
You got to show me a clip of that because I seen the Chiefscates one. I'll watch that one just to support.
Oh,
I'm
that shit's
surprised you
old
haven't
school.
gone more full force, like do freelance acting on your spare time, like the weekends or whatever.
Ah, man,
Because I know you
yeah, I was
tried,
talking.
you did the skits and all that stuff, and you were going for it, but then you kind of gave up on it. And I know you also did
Yeah,
story rights as well, and you gave up on that too.
yeah, I gave up on a lot of things in life.
So you might need to bring your passion back.
Well, I mean, it was a passion for that time period. The
You're
passions
over it.
changed.
You're like I'd rather watch and be act.
No, but yeah, so like back to the point was like that was only 2 seasons, and I thought personally I thought it was pretty good, and then nope, we're done. We're probably to do with viewership, of course, but and Stars, does Stars even still exist nowadays? They probably do,
Yeah,
but
it does.
yeah, yeah. But Stars was the very very ugly stepchild of HBO, so it's like it's never really got any notoriety.
No,
Actually,
I
HBO
think they were like the second competitor. If you're gonna say like the stepchild, to be like the Showtimes or something like that.
would it be Showtime? I
Yeah,
always thought maybe Showtime was still even above Stars.
and then you have the twice removed cousin, which is Cinemax.
Ah, yeah, that's right. Damn.
Cinemax, all those are still there. They all are there, and now they actually bundle them together. Where it's like you pay like $7.99, you get like Stars, Cinemax, and all that stuff. Which, as much as I bash those shows, they have a lot of old good movies on there that they always replay. Like Blade was on there, and sometimes I watch that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So that's, but we'll see.
But before we move
Um,
on from The Last of
sure.
Us,
Yep.
if they did not, obviously you probably wouldn't care if they didn't make a third game. But how would you feel if they cancel a third game but continue with the story?
Oh yeah, I would support it. I'd be in favor for it. Because at that time it'll be all fresh. I guess not. Dare I say, not that it matters. I think it would matter though, is depending on who they would keep around to assist with that, right? If that matters, because I think it does. But like,
Now,
would they?
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was saying because like I think currently don't they have some sort of like help or direction from Naughty Dog?
Well, yeah, Neil Druckmann, the guy that actually
Yeah,
directed the games, is
yeah,
on the show too.
yeah. So like hopefully he would still be on, and I don't know who else he might have on board with him. But if you got the same people, then cool.
So before we move on, I'm doing this for fun because I want to hear what your predictions are, since I already know. Who
Uh-huh.
do you think, like, what do you think is going to happen in season one, and well, who do you think is gonna keep going? Who do you think is gonna not make it, and all that stuff? Who do you think is gonna be added to the show, like character wise?
Oh fuck.
Like, do you have any predictions of like what's gonna happen?
Well, my large gut says Joel eventually goes. Um, and Ellie, dare I say, has to survive because she's the, dare I say, savior in all this. But who really knows? Um, Adding people, I don't know, man. Like, I mean, it's a Survivor thing. I'm sure they're gonna make friends along the way to help them get from point A to B and then B to C and C to D. They probably got to fuck people over and during those times as well. Um, a part of me, just because this is what happens with TV shows, the Fireflies thing is all a ruse, and they're probably bad guys at some point, or are the bad guys. But I don't know. I'm gonna say like if those things happen, I wouldn't be surprised. I guess is kind of what I'm getting at, right? Um, yeah. What is Biden gonna be in it or something?
Oh, Biden, Bush. I think Harry Tubman's gonna be in there at some point.
Okay, good, good, good. But yeah, no, I guess those would be some points that dare I say I would expect or not be surprised by. Oh, what's I forgot. I guess another notable mention was Joel's friend, right? Is that his real brother, or they just call him? They just call each other brothers?
If you're talking about in real life, they're not brothers in the show; they're
No.
actual brothers.
Oh, and show no, not in real
Yeah,
life. I know
Tommy
they
and
weren't
Joel are
brothers in real
brothers
life.
in the
No, oh, so
actual
in the show
game.
they're actual brothers. I'm sure there's some discourse there. Um, as you know, Joel, they paint it like Joel really misses him and is obviously concerned, right? But there's probably an ulterior motive there and why they aren't together anymore. Like, come on, what happened? Um, so yeah, that's probably another thing. Yeah, I guess
I,
I'll go with that for now.
I
For
think I'm
for
gonna.
two for two episodes worth of stuff.
I think in the future I'm gonna ask you again to see how your predictions change, because obviously I'm not gonna say yes or no
Hmm.
to any of them because
Hmm.
I want to see what
Hmm.
you think.
Hmm.
Um, but I think you're gonna like the show.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think. Damn, when did Walking Dead debut? That had to debut a long time
2010.
ago. Really? Oh, I thought it might have been a little bit longer. But anyway, so with that line of thought though, like I feel like, newer or more recent things get inspiration from older things and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think like Walking Dead probably does have a large influence in this game. So that's kind
Uh,
of why I think some of those things, right? I mean, you look at like the story arc with like Norman Reedus' character, excuse me, with wow, why am my brain finding his name?
Daryl.
Daryl, thank you. Um, and his story arc, like through the first few seasons, were just amazing, and like you legit pretty much hated the guy initially, right? Straight up racist, asshole, and everything, and then he
Wait,
turns
no,
into
you're thinking about his brother. Daryl was
I
never a
mean,
racist.
he kind of was a little bit with them. I don't know. I
No,
have to go
you're
back
thinking
and
about
rewatch it.
Merle. Merle
No,
was the guy
Merle,
you hated.
but Merle's, yeah, him too. But then he also had a redemption story as well.
Oh yeah, Merle had a great
So
redemption story, but Daryl
yeah,
never had that hatred. He was just neutral. He was just watching his brother, and he was like, obviously he's my brother, but he's an ass.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah. Anyways, like they did really good jobs with story arcs right there, right? Like they weren't really the fan favorite. You had animosity towards them, and then they become
Well, no,
America's
they were
Lover.
definitely a fan favorite because Daryl was not in the comic books.
Oh, I know that much. I know too. Yeah. Um. So, anyways, with that said, like I just feel like sometimes uh new IPs kind of get influenced from other ones. And yeah, that's kind of why I think that way.
Okay. So I guess moving on to number three because this my next top my conversation is going to carry over to this one. So it's another area of video game adaptations. Obviously, we're talking about Last of Us potentially canning more things or potentially being canned itself. Moving on to other stuff. It seems like a lot of other, not just PlayStation, but every other thing is starting to adapt more of their video game franchise into either movies, TV shows, or animes, which I think is unique because the last time we've seen an explosion this big was from like 1997 to like 2004.
And just in the video game market.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would really have to like sit down and like create or find a list, but like we both for audience that doesn't know, we kind of both in a sense pitched this topic, but in maybe different matrices. Like my line of thought with this was um
Boosting sales and video games.
yeah, so like another thing we didn't talk about in the previous topic that kind of carries over is, obviously with The Last of Us being successful as it is, not only as a TV show, but it's been super successful for Sony, and the revenue is making from the video game sales. So where I started thinking was, and I don't know what games, I didn't really even think about what games could possibly enter the fray in this category, but it makes me wonder if maybe um, the video game companies themselves might even try to go out and partner up or try to sell and pitch their things to be adapted
Well, I
to
could tell you that.
with the thought to increase game sales, which to me would be a very 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 high risk high reward scenario. But if they're going to start getting better, it may work.
So too bad you're not into anime because there's actually a
Hmm.
show that did this before, and I know I talked about it before, and I think we may have had John on or we probably had a guest on, but
Hmm.
I mentioned Cyberpunk Edge Runners.
Hmm.
How there's Cyberpunk 2077 the game, how it didn't do so well because of all the glitches and bugs and all that stuff, and now it's like really popular again. But
Hmm.
Edge Runners pretty much breathed new life into it, resurrecting it from the grave, causing massive spikes in sales, and then also because it was part of the series and it continues. Um, and then obviously The Last of Us Part One, which I think you mentioned. I think we have it right here on screen, where it gave a 238% boost in sales. I think this is definitely the new media market now, having shows. But I think doing it the Last of Us approach is the worst way to do it. I think Edge Runners is the best way, where you have your base game and you make shows to build upon that world.
Mm. So in that sense, that model, you're saying you have the Last of Us game, but you don't make a Last of Us adaptation to try and mirror the game. You instead create
A spin off
side
that adds
stories,
it.
spin-off shows
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah, like
Okay,
add
okay,
a
but
show like maybe that's one season long, but it builds upon a character that you liked in the game, or add some backstory like the origins of the fungus or whatever. I feel like that adds more flexibility creative wise. Wait, are you frozen? Oh,
no, no, I
you're like
did a
you're
good
so
job.
perfectly stuck that you're frozen.
That's how deep in thought I am.
But they have creativity flexibility wise where they could create whatever story they want to add to that world, and they're not just stranglehold to that script of following the games. Like we just talked about how The Last of Us might reach that roadblock potentially soon.
Yeah. Ah, man. I mean, it's a nice. I think it's a cool model. I still feel like it's still risky though, because like, okay, so like part of our, I don't want to say contention, but like, when we did kind of like butt heads a little bit during our conversations, Last of Us, like, you were very concerned about deviations, right?
Well, I
I
wasn't
think,
concerned about deviations if it's good. I'm concerned about like if they do it in like a bad way, because like obviously, like I said, the origin trait that's a good addition, but if
yeah.
they change in a bad way, That, or like like killing somebody off or adding somebody in a different way. I would have a problem with that.
Yeah. Well, so with that said though, but minus the good or bad deviation, the moral story is like you have concerns about deviations, right? That's true.
Hmm.
So with that said, with the spinoff, I think you're kind of leaving yourself a lot more open to those deviations.
Well, if
Now
if it's not you copying the same story, I'm 100% open to you adding addition story instead of you adding story to something that's already laid out for you. You know what I mean?
no, I do know what you mean. It's just like I mean, once again, I don't know if we have really. Well, you have that show as a good example, but like I don't know. I'm trying to like think of another one that would be helpful in this predicament. But like, um, I'm just trying to think like, man, like if there was a particular show. I mean, I guess we could use this one for example too.
Cuphead.
Like I feel like not to say I wouldn't have watched this show, but if I found out that it wasn't about the game, because well, my as we all know, my background's a little bit different. Like I wanted to play the game, but I just like no, I just want to watch it now. So it's like best of both worlds. I'm getting what I want, but in a physical medium. If I found out this wasn't following the game at all, and it was just a side story of, let's say hypothetically, it was a spin-off of Joel from losing. Spoiler alert again. I guess let me preface that 5 4 3 2 1 from losing his daughter to now where it started off in episode one. Like if you got that middle ground as a season, I don't know if I would have been lured to that.
And I'm going to use Cyberpunk Edge Runners as the counter because
Yeah.
it has such a good standalone story that people
Mm-hmm.
that never even bought the game because they're so interested in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I
I
could
mean, but
see how it could like it's a double-edged sword. It could either work
yeah,
massively or
yeah,
fail. Like Cuphead, for
yeah,
example,
yeah.
the show doesn't follow. It doesn't do the games, but it adds more story, adds better characters for Cuphead, and I forgot what his companion is. But that also boosted sales, and that wasn't following the
Mugman.
games. That was just making its own thing.
Yeah, yeah. I've watched most of the Cuphead cartoons, and I like them a lot. And to your point, like, well, deviations, but like in all
But
reality, if you play Cuphead, how do you have to deviate from Cuphead? Like
yeah,
you don't get a TV show from that video game. I'm sorry, you're just not gonna do it. So they had to. They had to be creative. I mean, they still kept all the characters in the game, no doubt. But as far as storytelling in the game itself was, and they had it. Don't get me wrong, there was something there, but it was so minute. You can't turn that into however many episodes they have for the cartoon. Um, but yeah, going back to just like our topic here, like I think, and I also hope, right? I really do hope because we're both passionate about video games. Like I hope that we get a lot more video game adaptations, and not only get adaptations, but damn good ones now, because I think it's been um, well overdue.
I think it depends on what you like because obviously I've watched a lot of them, like Ghost in the Shell, as much as people like to bash on Scarlett Johansson. Their
Mm-hmm.
adaptation was very accurate too. Well, that's not a video game; that's an anime. My bad. But what's another one? I was about to use Speed
Well,
Racer,
I
but
mean,
that's a one.
well, I
That's
mean,
it.
we briefly talked about Halo last week, and I don't
Oh,
want
that
to.
was a horrible one.
I
Yeah,
don't, I, was like, I want to bring you back down. But like I said, I like I've never played Halo, but just based
Oh,
on the trailer, like I still would like to watch that at some point. Like I would like to
don't
take
watch
that
the
in.
Halo show. Don't. If you want the better story, play the games. The show will ruin. Like if you watch the Halo show and you're like,
Well,
oh, this story sucks.
but
It'll
but
leave a bad taste for you.
with that even said, I even how can I put it? Even if the show was really good, right? I still wouldn't play the Halo games. So that part doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, I think if you're not gonna play the games, then just don't watch the show because like it does not do any of the story justice.
It's that bad?
It's that bad, and they're having a season two
God.
because for some
I know they're
reason,
having it season two, but
yeah,
really?
like if they want to call it another, like if it was under a different name, maybe it's passable, but with the Halo title, it's a disgrace. It's like worse than Mortal Kombat, and I'm talking about the HBO version.
Ouch.
Yeah, like it's bad. Like like let's say if they took what's your
That
favorite character? Let's
sucks.
say if they took Mario, but they made him,
Well,
you
Chris
know,
Pratt.
the Well, no, like let's say if like I don't know if I'm on Mario, but like
Fucking
let's say if I
around.
took Cloud and it went
Yeah.
from like him just being doing what he's doing, he saves, he's just a soldier that follows orders, to him being like a drama queen and doing all this and that because he's selfish. That would ruin the character for you if you see the better version versus somebody that spits on your character.
I got you. I got you. Yeah. Well, that sucks. Sorry.
But going back to what we're talking about, like obviously, I think you and I have different approaches to like should they follow the script or should they like. I think that there's characters
Well,
in The Last of Us, like there's characters in most video games that they are fan favorite, they have good stories, and you can build upon them. Like for example, imagine like we didn't get The Last of Us like actual show following the games, but we get like Joel from the beginning leading up to now, or Tess leading from her beginning to now. That could probably just be one season. They just keep adding, and it's like, oh, I really like this character, and I know they're from this video game. Do I want to watch it because of the video game, or because of the show, or
I
like
don't
Ellie?
know. Like,
Because well, I'm not gonna say anything about Ellie because maybe they might show in season 1, but there's stuff with her
yeah,
too.
yeah. Man, I don't know. Like, I think it's easy for me to say no right now, but like, I don't have an example where at least I don't think that's worked for me yet, right? But then again, we don't have
There's only
examples
been
for that.
one show that's ever done that, and that's been Blade Runner or Edge Runner. Sorry, Cyberpunk Edge Runners. That's
Yeah,
only ever
yeah.
created a separate story and added.
So to that point, like, I guess it has to happen for me to see if that works, right? To see if that happens. Um, I can't sit there and say it will not work, but I don't know, man. Like, I think that's a very big. mm, I mean, that probably isn't a marketing risk for whoever owns those IPs. If you think about it, it's probably still a win-win because they're probably not looking at it for the added video game sale revenue. They're just looking at it to get, a live action adaptation done, or not even live action. I guess to your point, it could be an anime, it could be what have you. That aspect, that Fallout is just an incentive, and a really big, huge incentive, especially in the case of this game. Um, but I think I was kind of looking at it as some sort of marketing tactic. But now that we sit here and talk about it a little bit more, it's like, maybe it's not a good marketing
Yeah,
tactic.
because like if you look at it, I mean, same thing. Like I was talking about Halo, how it does like the series Injustice,
Hmm.
Uncharted, for example. They obviously it seems like PlayStation wants to make all their games into like a cinematic universe.
Hmm.
Where even though I did like Tom Holland and I like Mark Wahlberg,
Hmm.
I think the movie would have been better if it wasn't called Uncharted because it didn't follow. I mean, they tried to do it, but obviously they deviated significantly on the story. Like they try
Hmm.
to make different stories connect when timeline was. That's not how it worked.
Hmm.
But like Uncharted, even though the average person liked it, it didn't tie into the game very well, and it almost did the game disservice as well.
Gotcha. Who was worse, Wahlberg or Holland?
They
Or
so I
let
can't
me
blame
flip
them
that.
because it wasn't them; it was a story that they were given.
Gotcha.
The script was bad.
Gotcha. I will say this, and I don't know what your feelings are on this, so it'll be interesting here. I would much rather have my adaptations, if they're going to be live action, I would much rather have them in a TV show format rather than a movie because I think the movies are more
Limited.
um, very limited, right? Because you're trying to put this arguably 30-hour plus game, and some of them double that length, right? All that content into 1.5 hours, 2.5 hours max, because they ain't gonna really give video games that big long run times. It's gonna deviate like fucking hell, or get squished storyline wise to hell. I think that's why they fail. When you give it the TV format and you get 8 hours, even though it's still gonna get squished, hypothetically, or depending on how they strategically plan it more, you're more than likely to try to, or if they're done right, you get more time to work with to kind of maintain that lore that people loved.
Yeah. When you were talking about like marketing wise, I was thinking about how hard they were trying to market Uncharted because
Hmm.
obviously I'm not sure if you played the games, but
No.
the Uncharted Is it the Legacy? I forgot what the PS5 version is called. But
Mhm.
basically, if you bought the game, you're guaranteed a movie ticket, like for the movie. And I'm like, oh, is
Interesting.
the movie that bad where they basically have to force you to get the movie as well? It's like
Mhm.
you buy the game, you're guaranteed a movie ticket. But like I've
Mhm.
never seen anyone else do that, and then it turned out as it came out. I mean, like I said, the movie isn't bad; it just doesn't follow the game.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. I think like my only comparison to like deviation stuff that obviously like, no secret that I'm passionate about is obviously WoW. And then when they did that movie, I mean, I
That was a
still
good
adored it.
version.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's kind of better to hear that come out of your mouth than my mouth. But like, but
Well,
I
I
enjoyed
I
it.
would say we're about the same because we both play Warcraft.
Well, but I play it like 1,000 times more than you do.
Yeah, but I still played it and I know the
Oh,
story.
yeah, no, yeah, no, you do, no doubt. But even to that notion though, like at the time, my girlfriend, like she liked it, and she was like not like super giddy about it afterwards, but like it was that one time in my life where because she doesn't never gave a fuck about video games, so like she knew I played that to hell, and the fact that she was then now asking questions afterwards,
So almost
I thought
like
was fucking.
persuade her to playing the game.
Well, no, no, like I would never have done that. Like if
No,
she
I'm
really
saying would
want,
the
if she,
did the movie almost persuade her, like because it got her
no,
interested,
not
would she have
no,
potentially
no,
played
not
it?
like that. No, but wait, what made it cool was like she had follow up questions with like all the characters and stuff, and wanted to know more, which I thought was awesome. And of course, then kind of got to nerd out. But with that said, talking about deviations and adaptations and how it could be marketed different, right? Now, like me being already a fan, it wouldn't matter because I would eat it up all live anyway. But like once again, someone that's not a fan, like how would they get lured? I don't know. Like that's very interesting. I mean, it's possible, but like I don't know.
Well, I think that's the. I mean, it doesn't just. I mean, I feel like this is like a problem with everything, not just video
Hmm.
games adaptations, because the story has to be good.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like I think that's why people are looking at Warhammer. Like the story is good for Warhammer. They're just trying to figure out how to adapt it to this like a TV format, just because there's so much going on, especially
Hmm.
how branched out the storyline actually is.
And I
Um,
think like the education part is also huge, right?
yeah, like how do
And
you like inform viewers that don't watch it and get them enticed to watching it? That's also like a factor, and that's also probably what causes deviation tactics. Because let's be real, as much as like you could be a loyal fan, you also have to think about like getting other people in there, and I think that's why The Last of Us is their intro so good to give you that origin story instead of like reading collectibles. But
mhm,
then there's other parts where they deviate too much, where they don't give you like a nice little snippet. They actually change the whole story to bring you in, and that's where
mhm.
the loyals versus casuals fight.
So going back to, like, I hate to go back to like the previous topic, but it kind of dawned on me a little bit, like the deviations, like how you mentioned that one guy that was with dare say interrogating or Tess, and then he could have had a bigger role, but it was found dead. It kind of brings me back to like the Resident Evil 2 game where you had play A and play B, and
Mm,
with play A and play B, you would have different
like
scenes act
POVs.
out. Yeah, and would you really have been? How can I put this? Would it really have mattered to you if you never got that?
Well, the thing is that there wasn't like a B. They were Joel and Tess were the ones that took him out.
No. I get that, but I guess what I'm. Oh, okay.
So it wasn't like
You didn't
Tess
say
went on
that. You didn't say
herself.
that before. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That is different.
like Joel was the one mostly
That's,
hunting. That's why they mentioned
yeah,
like
that's
Joel's
why
your
they're
guard
going
dog.
after him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's different. But if I may just still kind of complete my thought, I guess. But like, let's say they did do it justice and did exactly, but they didn't show it, right? They just showed him dead, but they did it. Like, would that have mattered?
I
Would
think
that have been
if they
okay?
show him like obviously if they cut like the scene but they still show him like catching up and shooting him, I'd have
Yeah.
been better than just like how
Okay.
did he die? Like when you walk into a
Gotcha.
scene, who do they
Gotcha.
fight? Did they fight each
Yeah.
other? Like they
Yeah.
left that completely open. When the
Well,
games, Joel actually took them out.
I mean, I guess in the show they didn't necessarily complete that open because it was the Fireflies that killed them,
Oh, was it?
right?
They fought each other?
Well, I think it's kind of insinuated because the other chick fucking had a wound, gunshot wound,
Okay,
and the
so
other one was missing the ear, like it got ripped off somehow.
but it also doesn't
Oh,
explain like how
it's
they claim to fight him because like the
well,
battery
they
was
wanted the
there, but
yeah,
when
they
they were
wanted the battery
were in
too.
their interrogating Tess, he already said he sold it off to them. So why would they go back to get the battery or sell the battery again when they already sold to him originally?
I don't think Tess knew who he sold it to.
But why would he? I'm saying why would he go back again if he already sold it to him originally? You know what I
Oh,
mean?
because he's an idiot. They said that. They called him a fucking idiot. They're like, why would you try to sell it 2 times or something like that? They mentioned that in the line.
Yeah, but I mean, like that's also what leads on to the chase and all that stuff. But it was just weird how they changed who killed him. But he's more of like a side character, anyways. It wasn't like the big part. It was just weird how they
So,
kind of like
yeah,
glossed over it.
yeah.
But
Now let me ask you. Here we go. We keep going back and talking about it. But did the thought ever occur to you that maybe that since the director of the game is also on the TV show, right? Did you ever think that maybe now that he's doing it this way, even though it is a deviation, since he is the in some capacity owner of the IP in some regard, that in his mind he's like, oh, I get to do this in a TV show now. This is maybe a mistake I did in the game that I want to tell it differently. I want to tell it this way. We would probably never know that, but
I would
let's
highly
say
doubt that's the case because it almost seems like the game adds more than the show does.
okay.
I feel like this is more of like I don't think he's actually the director. I think he's the executive producer that has oversight to the story, but
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have full control of the direction. I think that's probably where the disconnect comes in sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, who knows? I don't know because I'm not part of the team. Because like I would love
Yeah.
to hear like obviously like we were talking about the snippets, the additions, like whose idea was that? Was
Mm-hmm.
that Neil Druckmann's or was that the actual director?
Yeah.
Because whoever made that decision was fantastic.
Yeah.
But then the
For
other
sure.
stuff, it's like who makes that? Who makes that one? But I don't
Gotcha.
know. Like I said, for the majority of the part for that one, it's good. But for other ones, like like we're talking about, like game boosting sales. Like I know, Ghost of Tsushima's actually. I don't remember if they're making a movie or if they're making a
Oh,
show. But it seems like
interesting.
I said, PlayStation's making more stuff like they did Uncharted. Now it's The Last of
Uh
Us,
huh. Uh
and
huh.
Ghost of Tsushima. I think is already done filming. They're in editing right now. And I
Mm.
wonder if that's going to boost sales or if that might be their flop like Uncharted. Because
Yeah.
Ghost of Tsushima was fantastic.
Yeah. That's another one. I mean, we'll see. I don't know if it would get me to play a game, but I guess I'm looking for that first one that does, right? Um, but did they ever greenlight a God of War?
I mean, they probably have talked about it, and if they were to, I recommend them do it now because, what's his name? The actual guy that voices Kratos has the physique of Kratos, so if they're gonna do it, they should get him to do it because
Mm,
he could actually physically pull it off. But I don't know if they actually have said any confirmation if they were or not, which would be dumb because they legit have the ideal guy for the situation, like not just the voice but the body too.
interesting.
Then it doesn't matter
Yeah,
what his skin color is because he's already
he
white.
gets
He
painted.
has
Yeah.
covered in ash.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Hmm.
I mean that would be a good one
And
to have. But the only question though is where would they start? Would they do the original God of War 1, 2, and 3, or would they just start with God of War 2018 and start a new story from that?
yeah, no idea. I mean, I haven't played them, so I have no horse in that race. So
I feel like if they did, it'd be. I mean, I would love to see God of War 1 all the way through now, but realistically, they most likely will just start from 2018 because 1, 2, and 3 are separate stories from 2018 and Ragnarok,
hmm
even though they kind of tied together. But I feel like story wise, or TV show wise, it makes sense to just go with 2018 and Ragnarok.
interesting.
So now I'm gonna pass the question on to this because obviously we're getting more adaptations
Yep.
and also potentially shows that could boost the games or movies that could boost the games.
hmm
What would and I know you might say World of Warcraft or you might not say World of
hmm
Warcraft, but is there any game that you have that you would love to see adapted to like a show or movie that could potentially boost the games itself or the franchise itself?
I won't say World of Warcraft.
Final Fantasy.
Um, no, I mean, if Final Fantasies were to be adapted, I mean, they have already done full feature length. Um,
Animations.
yes,
And they were pretty
CGI
good.
films. They're very good. And to your kind of discussion earlier, how they're kind of like
Standalone stories that add to the
spin-offs.
universe.
Exactly, that's exactly what they do. But they're not like theatrical releases. They're usually bundled with collector's editions or what have you. So it's kind of just like additional free content in some capacity. I mean, not really free if you're paying for the collector's edition, but nonetheless,
Well, no, those were free. Like, what was it, Kingslave? Is that the one you're talking about?
Kingslave was one, yeah.
Yeah, that was. I could be in their streaming service wrongs, but I think that was also day and date with Crackle, Sony's original streaming platform.
Oh,
Like I
really?
know,
Okay, I didn't know that.
what was it called? Dead Rising. I think that might be the franchise. They had stuff like that too, and they had it on like a streaming service.
Uh-huh.
Even though obviously it was bundled with the stuff as well, but they also had it with the streaming service.
Gotcha. Um, yeah, so game. Man, it's a good question. Because the unfortunate part is I don't play a lot, a lot
I
of
mean,
other
you play
games,
enough.
right?
Like, would you like to see
But
Octopath, Fire
I'm
Emblem?
even trying. Well, I'm even trying to think of one because even going back with a theme that might lure me to play the game, right? Um, trying to think if there's something out there. I know they're making a Gears of War movie, aren't they?
I think they're. I don't know if they're making it, if they're talking about casting it, and that also has me concerned that might turn into a Halo thing because they're trying to make Marcus Phoenix Batista, and
Yeah,
he's not Marcus Phoenix. If he was anything, he'd be Dom, like the side character. So
gotcha.
depending on who they cast too, it might be a
Yeah,
Halo disaster.
interesting. I'm trying to think of like another. I mean, it doesn't have to be a super popular franchise, right? Hmm. Hmm. Well, do you have an answer while I keep thinking?
I actually have a couple,
Okay,
and
go ahead while I keep thinking.
I don't
Good
want to be a
question.
Jeff Keighley here, but I feel like Hideo
Hmm.
Kojima's games could do that. Like Death Stranding, I feel like could be adapted well like a Last of Us show, or it could add
You would
continuous backstory and how the world got to how it is
you
in
would
Death
probably have
Stranding.
to get like fucking Nolan to direct that shit of how crazy it is.
Oh, Christopher Nolan, or even like I mean, obviously Guillermo del Toro is good buddies with Hideo Kojima, and Guillermo del Toro is a director himself, so he could even do it
Yeah,
himself, and he does good psychological horror stuff.
yeah.
So he's got the connections right there, and I think he even talked about doing a show with him at some point. So maybe that's what it is. And also Norman
Probably already have
Reedus,
that agreement. Yeah,
and
they
Norman
already got
Reedus
their
also said he
actor.
wants to do it too.
Yeah, it's like it's just laid out. Just fucking do it.
Yeah, and
Like,
then like if it's not Death Stranding, because like that would be like a perfect ideal choice because it's a real, well, obviously besides like the supernatural aspect, it could be
mhm,
done in like a reality format. And
mhm.
then another one would probably be like Metal Gear Solid, because
Yeah,
realistically it's just a soldier, obviously with psychic abilities with some enemies, but it could be done in a show format. um Another one I would like to see too, and this, oh, I don't know how they would do it, would be Fallout.
mm.
I'm not sure if you play the
So
Fallout games, but I would love to see it on the show.
no. So I do have an answer for you. It might be surprising, and I think you already mentioned they have animes out, but I think the world is a little overdue for some sort of vampire franchise, and Castlevania would be fucking awesome.
Are you saying that because Castlevania already has an anime and they're still doing more animes for it?
But I'm talking about live action.
Oh, man,
Like for as much as zombie stuff gets overdone, we don't get a lot of vampire stuff.
I don't know. Twilight's the best you're gonna get.
Oh, come on.
No, I'm joking. Um, no,
But
you're right. Vampires don't
because like
get
I
done
mean
that much.
Castlevania is a very notorious franchise, right? It is. It does have a following, but I don't think it's like S tier, right? It's probably definitely A, but I don't think it's S tier. I think if you do a very good Castlevania, whether it's a movie or TV show, once again I'm gonna say I would enjoy more TV show than a movie because you get more content. But um I think that could be something that could escalate their sales for sure.
As much as I would love to admit, like the anime is already perfect enough. I like the anime for what it is. It adds what it needs to add. It's perfect. It can do everything.
Hmm.
But live action, man. Have you ever seen a movie called I Frankenstein?
No.
Okay, so it's Frankenstein basically is a vampire hunter and all that stuff. But the way they do the vampires, or I guess they could do like a Blade version of it too. It's how they would adapt Castlevania into like a show format. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in Castlevania, like between like roaming, journey, fighting. Like there's like basic. Well, it depends on what Belmont you're going for. But like
Yeah.
some of the things they do there be kind of difficult to also portray in like a real show format. Like if you're
But
gonna
like
do that,
if
they would need a huge budget. Like I'm not sure. You said you haven't watched, but have you seen Captain America?
no.
Because I was gonna
Wait, the
say,
movie?
yeah, like the movies.
I've seen one or two.
So you know how like Captain America does like the cool tricks with like the shield. They would have to get somebody that can choreograph fights like Captain America to work on Castlevania because like the whip, the mace, and all that stuff, that
Yeah.
would be hard to choreograph
Yeah.
because he does a lot of
I
cool
mean,
tricks.
yeah. I mean, I guess like for me, I kind of like envision it like The Witcher ish, and that would be okay. Not too much silence.
I know. I'm trying to think. I think because I have the curse of seeing the anime version, I think it would ruin it for me. But I think for your casual
Gotcha.
viewers, it might do well in
Mm-hmm.
a Witcher
Mm-hmm.
style. It's just
Yeah.
like I kind of also want to see like a Blade vampire where it's like super heavy action and then you see cool tricks.
I mean, you can still get that. I mean, Geralt did some cool tricks
Very
ish.
minor, but I guess he
I mean, he
does.
only had one weapon, but yeah, no, like I think Castlevania might be something that could be done well or could go well.
I will never say no to Castlevania, but at the same time, I do you still have Netflix?
I never had Netflix.
Oh, I thought you got it once just to watch a show and then
No,
canceled it.
no, unfortunately not.
Cause
I've had access to it a few times, like from dating certain people, Netflix and chill. But
I was gonna say, I'm like, dude, I want you. I know you're not into anime, but if you're gonna watch it, I want you to watch the Castlevania anime as well because
okay, I would watch it.
it's fantastic.
But mainly because once again, I'm not a, you don't see anything Castlevania behind me, right? So like, but I know of Castlevania, and I know it has good lore, and so
And the
I would
anime
be
does it
if
justice.
you wanted me, yeah, if you wanted me to watch an anime and you're saying that Castlevania, I would watch that one.
Yeah, because they do a great job depicting Dracula. They do a good job with Trevor Belmont, the story of Alucard, Dracula's son.
Hmm.
They do in a really good way, and especially with the action, the animation, the story, everything is just it's crisp.
So is it how many seasons and how long?
uh, so if you're going from the Trevor Belmont story, I think there's only three or four seasons. It's like maybe eight. I think the first season's only 4 episodes. The second season's like
Hmm.
6 episodes, and three, and four if there's a four, there's like 8 episodes. So it's relatively short, but they get the point across in story. But I know that they're actually making obviously like the games. It follows the additional family members. Like it was Trevor Belmont. Now I think they're going with what's his name? What's the other guy? The Belmont with the blonde hair.
Oh fuck, man, you got me.
I think they're going with him next because they're trying to continue like the family storyline where
Uh
Belmont's
huh.
son takes over and starts hunting vampires and leads to Dracula again.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, I think that would be my answer. After that deep thought, where you know, um,
So I know this is like a
other,
weird segue, but like obviously you do make a great point that vampires there isn't many, and
um,
obviously the most popular vampire one is Twilight, unfortunately. Which even though as much as I make fun of that movie, I did like the fights with the werewolves and vampires. What's your favorite vampire movie?
Interview with the Vampire.
Interview with the Vampire. Why does it sound like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer thing?
No, it's not. You know what's funny? I never got into why does vampire stuff usually get the like?
The drama
Um,
treatment, like teen drama treatment.
yeah, come on. Like
I
vampires can be done pretty fucking scary, man.
well, I mean, look at Blade. They did it perfectly. Frankenstein did it perfectly.
I mean, you could say I
Have
Am
you?
Legend is kind of vampire-ish. I mean, you could some would argue it's more zombie-ish, but in theory, there were more vampires because they couldn't come out to the sunlight.
I guess. Have you ever seen a
It's
movie
like,
called
I
Priest?
guess.
I mean, they
No.
never really classified what they were. So I mean, if you,
No,
I
well,
mean, they do
they
have
didn't
vampire
fully.
qualities for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Have you ever seen a movie called Priest?
No.
It's from the same people that made Legion. That was a good one. But yeah, there's not many like good like besides teen drama vampires. There's not a
Yeah,
lot of action vampire ones. I think Blade might be the best one out of all of them so far.
correct.
Which hopefully we get done soon. Unfortunately, Marvel's still putting it on like the bench right now. I don't know why they're doing that.
Which one on the bench?
Blade.
Oh,
They
yeah,
they
yeah.
haven't finished it yet. Supposedly there's script issues or casting issues something like that, and because they're working on so many projects, they actually put it on the back burner,
Oh, wow. And
which
that was gonna be a
sucks.
TV show, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Interesting. Hmm.
And which that's another thing I'd love to see. I want to see it like I know maybe it's like the older version of me, but I like the Wesley Snipes version, and I'm hoping that they kind of give the same style as Wesley Snipes, but I feel like they're gonna change it.
Hmm. I never. I mean, I watched them, but I not that overly a fan of them or were a fan of them. But yeah, I think that would be that's my answer. I'm sure I could if I sit here long enough and freeze frame for you for
Yeah,
like I did earlier. I'd probably come up with some other good ones, but while you were giving your answer, that was kind of one that I felt like would be really good, and I would I'd get behind that.
yeah. It's funny too. Well, I don't want to completely bind it to live action stuff
Yeah.
because like I was gonna say like
Well,
another show would be Pokemon because like now we're getting another adaptation with Ash being gone.
correct, correct. And we've had, even though this is a different and unique topic, but we've had similar topics in a lot of our other podcasts. And like I said, I've gone on the podcast and said, like as far as CGI type adaptation slash, nah, I guess it wouldn't be anime, but like going back to
Well, it would
Nintendo
be anime.
IPs, like
Anime is animation, so anything
yeah,
animated is.
yeah, we've argued about that in the past.
It just
So
wouldn't be
uh,
Japanese anime.
correct, correct. So like I said, I feel like something like Star Fox would be fantastic in that type of format. Um, and that doesn't really have a lot of game. Um, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, it's not in the spotlight right now for video games. It kind of feels like a shelved IP, so that might actually help out
Well, with
Nintendo.
Mario coming out, they might actually be more open to ideas like Zelda, Star Fox,
Correct,
Samus. Well, it's
correct.
called what's Samus called? The actual Metroid.
The game is called Metroid. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's her character
Oh
is
man, that'd be a
Samus.
good one to see in like a TV show format. Like
Oh yeah,
obviously
yeah,
she's like the female version of Halo. Like she has her suit on. She's super hardcore. She's a super soldier. She fights
yeah.
aliens, and then
And
sometimes she takes her helmet off.
yeah, or actually her whole suit. Wah, wah,
Yeah.
wah, wah. But like the difference between and this is my ignorance with Halo though, and you correct me. I think the difference between Metroid is like she's kind of alone though,
Oh yeah, she's 100% alone.
versus Halo, Master Chief isn't, right?
Yeah, I mean sometimes he does
Oh,
like solo missions, but most of the time he's either with like the
so
USMC or like other Spartan soldiers.
yeah, so like going back to like deviations now, I think that would be a huge challenge in the live action format. It's like okay, if she's alone doing a whole show with just her, like she obviously does report to something or some entity, but I don't think it's ever been. I haven't played all the Metroids either, so I could be missing
You know what?
some.
Now that you mentioned, imagine instead of a TV show, a movie format. But this might just be me. But imagine if
Mhm.
they made Metroid a horror-ish game or a horror-ish movie where she's in there, she's fighting in this like spaceship, mothership, whatever you want to call it, and like you got jump scare monsters, kind of like aliens. Like she's basically the video game version of Ripley.
Yeah, I don't know. That'd be a tough sell for me.
Because I was gonna
That
say
that
like,
would be one of those deviations I would not like.
well, it
I
wouldn't
mean,
really be a deviation because she is by herself in a
no,
ship
no, she's by
fighting
herself, but like,
monsters.
but her objective is to eliminate all Metroids.
Yeah, and that's what
Uh,
Ripley did.
but
She
but
eliminated all the Xenos.
yeah. Anyway, but yeah, no, like, and I'm trying to think of like other IPs. Like, I mean, you could have a pretty good, cute cartoon show of like Spiral. Probably even do a cartoon of Crash.
Oh, I'd love
Um,
to see a Crash TV show.
yeah, that would be like super comical, right? Super funny.
Which,
Uh,
in fact, they have, obviously they don't have to do like Crash Bandicoot 1 through 4. They actually
uh-huh,
have spin-off games called like Crash to Insanity, where it's like Crash Bandicoot and Cortex doing like they have to stick together because they're glued together and have to work
uh-huh,
their way through Wampa Island to break
uh-huh,
apart, and obviously stuff happens. That
uh-huh,
standalone game right there is perfect for just one season, just right there. It doesn't have to be multiple
for
seasons,
sure.
just one season right there, and you're done. Move on.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of dare I say go full circle for our podcast episode here, but I could see Mega Man. Something happened with Mega Man too.
So
Like,
live action anime or movie?
oh,
And who? And if you
a-
do live action, who could you foresee as Mega Man? Don't say Henry
anime
Cavill.
and probably be the way to go for sure.
Like Astro
Uh,
Boy, because they did an Astro Boy movie in animation, and that was pretty good.
I don't recall seeing that.
It was like 2008 when it came out, but I thought it was good.
Who you put in the suits?
You put Mario,
It's a me,
Chris
Mega
Pratt's new
Man.
Mega Man.
Oh, that's a good question.
So but you confirmed that you want to see it in an animated format, right?
I would rather see it, I think, in an anime format. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it'd be cool in a live action, but it would be a tough, it would be a tough thing to do because it's pretty much all futuristic. Also fantasy. Once again, not that many humans, but they do have them, so they would be able to wiggle that in. The story's there for you. It's pretty simplistic, right? Dr. Wily for most of them, or Sigma in the X series, and then you got Dr. Light as the good guy. He's the one that made Mega Man. I mean, it's there, right? Actually, I think there might have been a cartoon. Now that I think about it,
There probably was at some point,
I
like
think
an
there
old one.
was. I think there was.
Because I know there was like a period in like the late 80s, early 90s where they were just adapting all that stuff, like any Japanese created character like Speed Race and all that stuff, Astro Boy. They all had
Correct.
like TV shows.
Exactly. Yeah. Now that I'm talking about it, yeah, I'm almost feeling pretty damn confident there was a cartoon series. But anyway, um, just trying to think of other IPs, like kind of going around through all companies right now, or
I was gonna say something super stupid. I was gonna say, well, I guess the best representation of how video games and live action can blend together was WWE. You got the video game matching the real life.
yeah, in some capacities, some capacity. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm not obviously too fluent with all the we always joke Microsoft doesn't have its own IPs, but I know they got some. So
Oh,
like,
they get, dude. I'm telling you, Fable. If they make a series off of that, it'd be massive. And obviously, Tom Holland has to be it.
of course, otherwise, just don't even do it. Like, what's wrong with you? But I did mention the Gears. I don't know if BioShock is doable.
Ooh, Bioshock would
Um,
be a good one.
but once again, start thinking about like, okay, like you'd like to see it, right? But is it
Can they do it?
achievable? I guess nowadays you in realistic, if there's a will, there's a way. You could probably achieve, but if you're like, let's be honest, and kind of mentioned this a little bit with Last of Us, like if you're doing it brand new, first season pilot, whatever, like you're probably going to be on a budget unless it's going to be backed up by Microsoft, where they could have, I wouldn't say a bottomless pit of funding, but they probably threw a decent chunk into Halo, don't you think?
That I don't know, and if they did, they should stop.
But anyways, like unless they get the budget to make it as glorious as it needs to be, like in video game format, then cool. But most times enough, it's going to be like a studio picking it up. It might not get that treatment.
Yeah, by any chance,
Um,
do you know if The Last of Us is backed by PlayStation? If they're putting money in it, or if it's just purely HBO?
oh, I don't know. I don't know. But they throw the damn logo in there. That's for damn sure.
Yes, at the very end, PlayStation Studios, Naughty Dog. I love that though, because like I was watching it with my mom, and I was also watching it with my grandma because I wanted to see how like their opinion on it because they don't play video games.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they like the show, but not because of the actual show itself. They like Pedro Pascal, and they
Oh,
keep
okay.
comparing him to Marlon Brando, whatever his name is. And so
Wow.
they're like, "Oh, we like this because of him." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I guess that works."
And that's probably why he was casted, to be honest. He has that gravitas. Like, he has that pull. He has sex appeal. He does.
If you're attracted to guys, yes.
No, I mean, it doesn't have to be like, homophobic. Like, the guy has sex appeal. It is what it is. Call spade a spade.
Yes.
But anyways, with that said, I had a different train of thought. You made me lose it now talking about Paul. Thank you. But go back to the logo. That's what I was saying. I mean, it's funny. I laugh at it, but like, not the Sony one, but going back to Warcraft, like when I was watching it in theaters, like when the Blizzard logo popped in the beginning, like I fucking got goosebumps. Like it was weird, but like it just gave me goosebumps. Like just seeing their logo and like they did a little cinematic thing with the logo, and it's just like got my hairs raising. Like this is weird.
Yeah, like they proved it's official.
Right? Exactly. In that sense, right? It's like,
It's
oh,
like their
like,
stamp of approval.
yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, I think that's cool. And dare I say, it doesn't always happen this way, of course, but the more you have that company involved, I think will make the video game adaptations better. I
You
know
hope.
it's not all the time, but
I was
no,
about to say
exactly. I
Halo.
mean, I know you're gonna go there, but I think there is going there should be in theory a higher success rate when they're involved rather than not involved.
Yeah.
And I mean, once again, we would have to sit here and talk about a whole slew of them to see if that percentage is accurate or not. I'm kind of going out on a limb a little bit to say that, um, because it's different when you're selling the rights and putting your logo on it at the end, Capcom, versus you're actually having people that were a part of that game involved with that process.
Yeah. It's actually really funny that you said that. For some reason, even though I watch anime, my mind completely blanked.
Mm-hmm.
You just mentioned Capcom.
Mm-hmm.
They have a Netflix show with wait, is Tenken made by Capcom?
No, no, Tekken is damn, who does Tekken? Not
Street Fighter
Sony.
makes
Sony doesn't.
Capcom.
Street Fighter's Capcom. Uh Man, it's
Because I
not
was gonna
Bandai.
say
Bandai
there's a show in
Namco?
you might be right. Because I know Tenken has a Netflix anime and
Namco.
that's
It's
pretty good.
Namco.
And I'm like, that does the game justice. Like, it made me hype for Tenken 8. Like, obviously,
Yeah,
it's like the origin story, but like, it gets me hyped to play the game.
gotcha.
But also, I'd like to see. So I know we're talking about like bad adaptations, and as much as I
Mm-hmm.
like to bash Halo, I actually did watch the whole thing. I actually
Mm-hmm.
after we talked to
Wait.
Joel, I
Oh, you
watched
did?
I watched the last 4 episodes.
Oh, wow.
It's still bad, but I'm like, I'm a fan. I have to watch it, even how crappy it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
So I will probably watch season 2. But going back to like the early days as well, when I was talking about how there was like a massive explosion of video game adaptations.
Uh-huh.
There was a adaptation of Doom in 2004 with The Rock and
Yeah.
Carl Urban, I think his name is. And a lot of people hated that movie, but I loved it. So I know, even if it might be bad in some people's eyes, I don't care if it's bad. I think I also still want to see more, even if it may ruin it like Halo does.
I still enjoyed it. I didn't love it. but
I like the first person version at the end.
like it was one of those. Yes. Oh, I love that part. No, no,
Yes.
100%. I loved that part. Really loved it. I was gonna actually make that point too. So thank you. Um, no, but like you're not gonna like this, but I thought it was a bad movie, but I still liked it as a bad movie.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't a good movie, but it was a
Yeah.
good bad movie.
Yes. Exactly. Yes. It
Because like
was.
it had some of those video game tropes and looks, like the first person mode,
Yeah.
and when the guy turns in, like the wheelchair guy turns into the monster and him slinging it around. I love that part. Was the story great? It was basically like your average sci-fi movie, like Riddick and all that stuff at the time,
Mhm.
but it was good for what it was.
Yeah. No, I concur. I liked it. I mean, yeah, it was bad, but but like going back to like sticking with video game adaptations because I kind of thought about this and in part in line with not necessarily resurrect. Well, we were talking about like could help game sales, but let's take that a step further and talk about
Could it build a
re-
game series? Like, let's say the show happens first and they build a game. Is that what we're trying to say?
no. I was gonna say a video game adaptation for a video game that doesn't necessarily exist anymore that maybe deserves a resurrection.
Ooh, do you have like any particular?
Mm. I do.
That'd
I
be
do
really
have
cool.
one. I do
All
have
right,
one.
what's yours?
Resistance.
Oh man, that would, I feel like, well, that's no, Naughty Dog
And,
makes Last of Us, but that'd be
and,
perfect.
I'm a
Last of Us
little
Insomniac.
selfish to that because part two they had a part that took place in Chicago, and that would be amazing.
That was Resistance 2, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Where they had that huge space battle, all the ships were there. Yeah, I actually
Yeah.
have all three games right there on my shelf, and I want to play them sometimes this year.
Yeah. See that was a franchise that like I felt was a little bit ahead of its time a little bit like with the different modes they had because they had that 40 player multiplayer and I could be wrong when I say this because obviously I don't play as many games as most gamers do but at that time I didn't know many games that had support or tried to support that many people online at the same time other than like MMOs.
That's
But
the
I'm talking
crazy
about
part is that there was
I'm talking
actually
about
a
on the
decent
console.
amount, even FPS, PS2 days, PS3, all that stuff. Resistance was
Exactly.
actually a 60v60, and that was only for part two. They dumbed it down in three for
Oh,
some
okay.
odd
See,
reason.
I didn't do three at all, and maybe I should go and try that one.
But there is a PS2 game that actually had 128 versus 128, and I'm like,
Oh,
during
it
that
was
time with that
yeah,
internet, I'm like, that's unimaginable to me.
exactly. And then the way and it failed because
It was ahead of
like
its time.
ahead of its time, and then like the respawn rate. I mean, some games still can't get the respawn rate incorrect, but
Yeah.
you know, it got it got toxic in a different way of toxic, like not like today's toxic, but a different type of toxic. And then not to mention like their co-op online play I fucking adored because it had the traditional tank healer DPS system where you would have a spec op where you did range, you have someone that did shields and heals and then the tank that would go forward and like I don't know, I loved it and unfortunately it just didn't do well.
Yeah, which is
um
weird because I feel like everybody that you could talk to about Resistance, they love the series.
Well, it pretty much lost to Gears of War, is what happened at the time. Like
Is it
that,
really? Because I thought the reason
I
why it
think
happened is because Insomniac was working on all their games, like more Ratchet and Clank. They were working on Spider-Man. They were also, I think they also were competing with themselves because I think at that time it was Resistance versus Killzone, and Killzone took over.
Killzone, that's the one. Oh well, no, Killzone was also a
It's
PlayStation one.
yeah, but they were competing with each other, like who would be the FPS king there.
Yeah, I forgot about Killzone too. Yeah. I don't know. Either way, it would be interesting to maybe dig back articles or something to read up on that. But yeah, I loved Resistance, and I thought the story too was pretty good. Was it great? Probably not. But once
Well, it
again,
was
going
an
back
interesting
to
story because
no,
Resistance
it was.
1 takes place in World War II, like an alternate version.
Yeah,
Resistance 2 was in the 60s, and then Resistance 3 was in the 80s, right?
I didn't play three, so I couldn't tell you. But Nathan Hale dies or turns in two, right?
Well, yeah, because he gets mutated with that Chimera
Correct.
virus, whatever.
So I mean, maybe yeah, the Chimera. I mean, I may go back and try 3. But I guess I'll allow you to go full spoiler. What exactly is 3 like about then? If Nathan, I don't think Nathan Hale's in it, right? At all, or is he?
Oh man, I wish I could really tell you because like I think I played it when it came out, like 2011, and that was the last time I played it. I
Oh,
think
okay.
he's still in it, if I remember correctly. Could be wrong, but I
Uh-huh.
think it's about building the resistance. Like I think it's like the tail end where humans are pretty much on their last leg, but the chimeras are
Hmm.
also on their last leg too, and it's just
Interesting.
survival, build a base, and take them out.
Mm, interesting. Okay. But yeah, so talk about like I would like to see that as an adaptation, a franchise that's in a sense pretty much dead in the water. I don't think we're probably the only people who's talking about it probably last decade.
No, I
And
feel like there's a lot more people talking about resistance than we
yeah,
think.
but I think if that could be turned into an adaptation that and maybe spark like, oh man, we gotta get another game out there. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, and now that you mention it, the only problem is that there's stuff that you would like to see, but would do well in like the average viewership. Because like,
Yeah.
I would love to see Wolfenstein. I think Wolfenstein is
Wolfenstein.
a great series, but it's too violent, and
Mm,
also it deals with the Germans' version of whatever happened in World War
yeah.
II. I'm not gonna say because of
Yeah.
YouTube they don't like that
Yeah.
word,
Yeah.
but I feel like that might be too graphic for people nowadays, especially with
Ooh.
how they go cyberpunk with humans integrated with machines, and then also a lot
Yeah.
of the torturing they do in there,
Yeah.
and supernatural aspects as well.
That would be interesting. Oh, but to that point of like pushing the envelope aspect, what was I reading? Oh my God. Damn it, I can't remember. But there was something in line with that people were thinking that good thing they didn't like take certain things out due to like cancel culture and narratives like that, right? Like this, dare we say, like the sensitivity of America, right, or sensitivity of the world,
I'll just say
and
America.
mostly America, though. Yeah, let's be honest. Um, but and I can't remember if that was in due to The Last of Us or not. Fuck.
Yeah, where they censor certain symbolisms and all that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I know Man the High Tower did that a little bit. Um, there was oh man, there's Overlord. I'm not sure if you've seen that, but it's a movie produced by J.J. Abrams. They did some censoring there. And it's weird that they have to follow these stupid guidelines because realistically, they're in a way they're depicting that side actually failing. So wouldn't that be a good thing?
Mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting.
But then also,
Okay.
I guess this is to pose a final question on this
Sure.
is: have you ever seen a game adaptation where the show actually succeeds but the game fails? Because I know of one. There's a show called Defiance. I don't know if it's called Defiance 2033. I think it was just called Defiance. But there's a
Mm-hmm,
video game that came out at the same time. They're both connected. I actually liked the video game. Unfortunately, it failed big time.
mm-hmm,
But the show kept on continuing after the video game was done.
mm,
And because the video game was done, everybody's like, all right, let's just watch the show. And then
uh-huh.
the show was just a success until they ended it.
Gotcha. Uh, yeah, definitely don't know of anything that falls under that category.
I mean, Last of Us might end up there soon. I mean,
They
obviously
they
not the game's failing, but they'll be cut off. But this
yeah,
one
yeah,
actually the
yeah.
game failed.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I can't yeah, I don't know of any. I don't think I want to know of any. That'd be sad.
Yeah, you're like, why was this show so good, but the game's so bad?
Yeah,
Which sucks too,
that
because like
would
you
suck.
said, it would make you sad because I did like Defiance, and it was an MMO, but unfortunately, it was one of those console MMOs that was too ahead of what they were doing. Like they're
Mhm.
the Destiny before Destiny,
Mm,
and PS3 and Xbox 360 just couldn't hold it.
interesting. Yeah, that does kind of suck. Yeah. Yeah.
But before we end this, because I know you're gonna do the wrap up here, if you're gonna look at Mega Man, please watch at least a trailer of Astro Boy, the 2008 or whatever it came out, and tell me if you would love to see that version of animation for Mega Man, because I think you might, because it
Okay.
does like it does it well, and I think Mega Man could equally be done well in that format.
Cool.
And I
I'll have
guess
to look
we
into it.
also pass the question on to the viewers. What game would they like to see adapted as well, and what could do well, and what do you think would fail?
Yeah, and all the questions we ask, we love to hear your answers, especially the resurrected one. Dare I say, I think that was a kind of good one, because
Resistance.
I'm sure there's a lot of ones that people probably miss from the past that they would love to see, resurrected again.
Oh man, Silent Hill.
Well, that one's getting a remake, the game at least. But I know you had reservations on that as well. So,
Yeah.
but who knows? Maybe that'll come up on a future podcast.
Yeah, I mean,
Not a,
there's obviously we talk about loads of things, gaming, entertainment, media, whatever. Everything's gonna be brought up. I'm surprised
of
you haven't
course.
brought up WWE this episode because we all know that they're now bought by Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, yeah, and that was fun reading all that stuff. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who buys them. I think there's even rumors of Netflix involved.
Oh my god, I think I want Saudi Arabia to take over. How would you feel if Netflix bought them?
It wouldn't matter to me. I don't watch that content anymore, so I don't care. I'm interested. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm following the information, but I don't care who ends up with it.
All right, so now let me change it. If
Okay.
AEW was bought by Netflix, what would you do?
Oh, probably have to get a Netflix subscription, I guess.
Oh, you wouldn't be upset? You'd just be like, hey, different network, that's it?
Well, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be upset, but will the programming in itself change and go downhill? Possibly, but in the interim, I'd still, be a fan and follow it. I mean, that wouldn't matter.
I don't know why. I just want to pose a dramatic like thought that Netflix will take over wrestling, all wrestling, Japan wrestling too.
Well, think of it. I mean, in reality, that'd be a huge fucking win for them if they were to score WWE.
Oh, 100%. Would the fans like it? I don't know. I mean, no, they probably would because almost everybody has Netflix at this point.
Yeah, I think, and especially if they could then somehow, some way own the whole entity for the pay-per-views and charge even a premium for you to watch pay-per-view on net. Oh, look at
Like
your
a
eyes light up.
$20 bonus? Disney's
Yeah.
done that. I guess it would work.
See? Yeah. Just saying. Just saying.
Netflix, you want more money? You know who to buy next.
Yeah.
Cancel some shows. Don't cancel the good ones. Stranger
Well,
Things about to end, so you got more money soon.
Witcher's gonna end soon, so.
Oh man, it's funny. I'm surprised you didn't bring that up. Like, well, I don't know if you want to bring that up because it also follows the books, but like, how I was talking about like standalone stories and how it could add to a video game. That could have been the best example of why it couldn't, because Blood and Origins kind of almost killed the series.
Yeah, which I still haven't watched.
I guess when you do it, watch Blood and Origins because there's only 4 episodes and it's only like an hour long. But then after that, cleanse your palate with Castlevania.
There you go, right? Cleanse my palate.
But do you want to wrap us up here?
Sure, I guess. I'm not. Do I do the wrap ups? I'm not used to doing wrap ups. But thank you all for joining us on the 22nd edition of the Automatic Podcast. And once again, you could watch. Sometimes watch, right?
Watch,
you could listen
whatever.
to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can watch the reruns on YouTube. We're doing this live on Twitch. You can still also follow us on Twitch individually at Joshua Cast for my man here, Josh. Me, myself, at The Real Shiesty. TikTok, Instagrammy, Snappy
YouTube,
Chatty,
Twitter, Apple Podcasts,
MySpace,
Spotify,
your space. We hope we're in your spaces. But yes, thank you again, as always, for joining us. Feel free to comment, like, subscribe, tell us what you did like, tell us what you didn't like. We love and we value all your feedback. So,
yes.
until next time, bid thee all adieu and farewell, and stay safe out there, and deuces.
Peace.